Afternoon, and thank you for coming to our official board meeting for August the 21st, 2024. Please rise and honor our flag. On the count of three, 1, 2, 3, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, I hope everyone has had a nice summer. Certainly the last couple of days reminded us that we are still in Buffalo. May I have the land acknowledgement for our Native American families?
Good evening, everyone. Land acknowledgement statement by the Buffalo Board of Education. The Buffalo City School District respectfully acknowledges the Haudenosaunee Confederacy on whose ancestral territory our schools were built. We honor and pay tribute to the indigenous ancestors of the land we use. We acknowledge the historic intergenerational traumas that they have endured and offer hope and opportunities for healing and reconciliation as we go forward together. One key Haudenosaunee principle is to live in peace and harmony with each other and the natural world. All life should be respected and cared for because what happens to one living thing affects all living things. We are grateful for the abundant natural resources in this land of the Haudenosaunee people and for all who work to protect these resources. We acknowledge the Haudenosaunee people as the past, present, and future caretakers of this land and water, and we are grateful for the opportunity to live, work, and educate our children on this ancestral land.
Thank you, Board Member Makusi. Okay, Superintendent. I don't know if we have any board recognitions this day. I didn't remember asking for any, so good. This meeting is going along real nice and smooth. Okay, thank you, Lisa. Okay. Speakers. At this time, the board welcomes speakers who have signed up to speak at tonight's meeting. Please be reminded that all speakers' remarks must be limited to 3 minutes or less. We ask that speakers be mindful that this is a business meeting open to the public and televised locally. Attendees and viewers include persons from throughout Western New York, including children. The board asks that the speakers conduct themselves professionally and that their comments remain civil and courteous, bearing in mind that they will be heard by people of all ages. This is an opportunity for Buffalo's residents to address the Buffalo Board of Education about issues that serve the public interest and district's mission. And the board asks that speakers demonstrate appropriate decorum. With that said, we want to welcome our speakers. Okay. Next up, first person is Kyra Maguire, Concerned Citizen, Movement of Personnel at Hutch Tech. Welcome.
Good evening, board members. My name is Kyra Maguire, and I am here to support in keeping Dennis Lesniak as the assistant principal at Hutch Tech. I am a proud alum of Hutch Tech, as is my daughter, who graduated in 2023, and my grandfather also graduated in 1923. While my daughter was at Tech, I was the parent engagement liaison for the school. In my role as the PAL, I got to know the administration at the school very well, as I worked with them very closely. Mr. Lesniak is well respected by the staff and students of the school. He is irreplaceable to the Tech community. He is one who understands and implements the traditions and values of Tech. Under his leadership, the school has maintained a 90% graduation rate, and the Tech family spirit remains intact throughout the building. In my time as the Pell, he was consistently engaging with the students and staff, providing a welcoming and safe atmosphere. In this time of post-pandemic education, students and staff need continuity and stability more than ever. Many count on the staff for more than just an education. They become confidants and role models. I have seen the shuffling of administrative staff throughout my daughter's education in the Buffalo schools, and it baffles my mind why everything is so disruptive, especially with changes happening just weeks before the start of the school year. I will again state that Mr. Lesniak is well respected by both the staff and students and understands the traditions and values of tech, and losing him would be a huge loss to a wonderful team. He is not an admin that hides in his office. He is in the halls engaging and looking out for the students and staff to make sure they are okay. I implore you to keep Mr. Lesniak at Hutch Tech. Tech is more than just a school, it is a family. Losing this family member would be a huge loss to the students and staff of such a wonderful institution and such a dynamic administration team. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jacqueline Gerwitz, teacher, movement of personnel at Hutch Tech.
I wasn't sure because I'm a fast talker, so I made a copy of my speech for y'all.
Okay, staff will take that. Thank you.
I'm short, so kind of with this. Hello? Okay. Okay, so I'm Jacqueline Gerwitz Dunn, 12 years at Hutch Tech, Algebra 1 teacher. Tonight I'm speaking on behalf of Dennis Lesniak. I'm part of our family at Hutch Tech, of those asking you folks not to transfer him out of Hutch Tech. As you see around us here, a good part of the Tech family is here to support him. Mr. Lesniak has spent the last 4+ years helping to create and support this family. Here are some important things for you all to know about him. He is easily the first to arrive at 5:30 in the morning and the last to leave each day. His door is literally always open for students and staff. Our building has absolutely no free space. Lesniak has offered up his space for students whose faith requires midday prayers. Our functional classroom funding was frozen. Mr. Lesniak offered funds to keep that afloat until the financials were sorted out. If there is a maintenance issue that comes across the admin radios, you can see Mr. Lesniak show up with a broom and a mop and a bucket. He contributed with other administrators to our spring celebration of life, honoring those murdered and hurt in the top shooting. He is this invested in our Tech family. He is part of the fabric that gives our students stability and consistency that may be missing from their worlds. Our returning upperclassmen and their families are expecting to see him and to interact with him and to get his support in just a few days. Our often returning graduates will expect to see him and share the early stages of their next adventure with him, which leads to our incoming freshman class and their families. On Monday, August 12th, they met our administrative team and some teachers. So I'm sure there was some student and families who felt a connection with Mr. Lesniak. And imagine the disappointment their freshman selves, and again their families, will feel upon discovering that the person they made a connection with is suddenly gone to another space. Moving Mr. Lesniak, especially at this last minute, will create instability throughout our Tech family. We ask that you please follow our Buffalo Public School motto to put children and families first, and therefore do not follow through on this change of Mr. Lesniak's role at Tech. We have the largest population of students in all of the BPS high schools at approximately 1,200 kids. A change like this simply disrespects the academic, social, and emotional structures we all work hard to maintain at Tech. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is a teacher, concerned citizen, Judith Greene.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yes, that's fine. Thank you. Yes, my name is Judith Gauthier-Ilson, and I am a teacher at Hutch Tech. I am a science teacher in a special ed dual role. I both teach my own classes, and I push in with, in fact, my co-teacher is here, Tammy Green. Again, family. I didn't prepare a speech. I'm speaking to you from my heart and with as much dignity and humbleness as I can, because I can't even express to you how devastated I was when my phone, I just got into town, and I had messages on my phone because I was in a desolate area, and my phone literally, as the kids would say, my phone was blowing up. It was on, and I plugged it in, and I'm like, so I you know, of course, you know, it was like midnight. I just walked in, and I saw what I saw, and I'm like, what? And I am no one to mince words. I'm really not. What you see is who I am. I'm real. And anyone can attest to it. I'm very professional. You know, I carry myself professionally. I have dignity. But I'm still that little girl from Buffalo that grew up in Buffalo. I started in kindergarten at School 33, and I graduated at Buffalo State College. Thank you. And I take that with pride, and I took it to Canada with me and taught in Canada 10 years and went to the University of Toronto, one of the 10 best universities in Canada, and I came home. I could have went anywhere with my degrees. I had extra degrees, and I could have went to the bougiest suburb in this area, and I went home. I came to Buffalo. By the grace of God and Crystal Barton, I became a tenure teacher, and I will forever be grateful to Crystal Barton, because I would not be the teacher I am today. And I'm telling you, Dennis Lesniak, if I may say that, is that principal. I would put him on the ranks with Crystal Barton. Before I left Buffalo, I was finishing my master's at Buff State, and I had Mr. Is it Guilford? I was young. Mr. Hargrave. I would put him with those folks. And I'm not even, like I tell the kids, I'm not playing. It is what it is. And that's all I have to say. I can't say any more because I'm going to start crying. Because if I don't see him in September, those kids, those babies are going to lose it. And I know that, you know that, and so do all my colleagues. And there would be more colleagues here, but like I said, it was just so fast. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Michael Gaynor, parent concerned citizen, regarding Rainbow House Community School. Can I have my phone? Thank you. Okay, Michael's not here. Next speaker is Eve Shippens, BPTO, Inequity in ENL.
Hi,
Hello.
is this on? Hi, I'm Eve Shippens, and I'm here speaking today representing the Buffalo Parent Teacher Organization. Part of our mission is advocacy, and today I'm here to advocate for equitable ENL services. This summer, we've had many conversations internally and externally in the BPTO regarding these services. Some of these issues are within the district, while others are within the state. Within the district, schools are not equitably resourced. Our schools that specialize in new Americans are over capacity, and more of our students are ending up in schools not prepared for that level of service. For example, working summer school was the first time in 23 years that I learned a school can request translators for exams. Why do some schools do this while others do not? Shouldn't this be available based on a student's need, not on which school they attend? In summer school, there were also issues because hub summer schools did not have easy access to records regarding modifications or accommodations students should receive. Having an ENL IEP would help make sure modifications and accommodations were clear to the students and families as well as to the school staff. Another major issue from summer school is a state ed issue, but one we should be working on with New York City and the other Big 5 school districts to address. and that is the lack of translated Regents exams for the August exams. I spent 2 days this week proctoring in E&L extended time rooms. Students asked me repeatedly for translated exams, and I had to tell them that we didn't have them and to do their best. One student was working on Global, which is mostly document-based questions. When he got to the essay part, he asked again for a translated copy. I sent for the translator to come help, and he did his best to help translate. But it was having trouble interpreting the document and being able to express the tone and details. The student looked defeated and like he was going to cry. He closed up his exam, he pushed it over to me, and he said, well, I guess I'm going to have to do this again in the fall. It was heartbreaking, and experiences like this may be the difference between a kid graduating or dropping out. Thank you for listening. BPTO looks forward to working with the district on these and other issues of equity for the good of all of our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mr. Ed Spadell, parent, thanking people. Welcome, Mr. Spadell.
Thank you, Madam President. What I'd like to do first is I want to thank the principal, Brian from School 64. She's been covering Southside Summer School, and one of my parents had a incident with their child, and she's very welcoming and had the support team there to work on a way to support the child through summer school. And I was really impressed with how much she cared about a student that she only knew for 2 days. So I wanted to take the time to thank her for that. I take the thing, seems to be a regular thing, Karen Murray. She helped one of our families at School 67, and I wanted to thank Karen. Because of her efforts and her support, we actually opened a new classroom in that school so the student wouldn't lose school of choice. So the student was already at 67, IEP was gonna chase him out. She helped advocate to get that class there. So thank you, Karen Murray. Equity Coalition, we would like to thank Sharon Cotman, Dr. Evans Brown, Terrence Hurt, and Paulette Woods for spending the first Friday, the whole evening with us. Larry, thank you for coming, but you guys spent the whole meeting. So we're very happy you guys did that. If you got a chance to go back Saturday, I hope you did. And the only other concern I have is the parents, we want the commissary, but we want it done right, and we want real conversation to happen so that everybody knows exactly what's going on. Then we will give our support once we have that so we can move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spadell. Kadija Hussein, parent, food commissary.
Good evening, board. My name is Kadija Hussein. I am a parent of a kindergarten student at Gifted Talented number 61. I'm here to discuss the critical need for our leadership to make the informed decision regarding the new food commissary project. For those who aren't familiar with food commissary, that is a large commercial kitchen where food district and larger institutions receive produce and prepare meals to distribute to schools, ensuring that our children can receive proper nourishment. I want to stress the importance of moving forward with this new commissary. Our current facility is outdated, too small to handle the needs of over 28,000 children, and this layout is significantly a safety risk for staff that are working there. We've been in discussion about this for almost 2 years, and while we are supposed to break ground back in September 2023, we still haven't made a decision to move forward. A new food commissary will enable us to make fresh produce, fresh food, healthy and unprocessed meal for our children. It would also promote cultural diversity by offering meals that reflect the backgrounds of our students, making them feel more welcome and comfortable with the food that they are offered. This summer and over the past year, our students in the program have been actively engaged in their school communities and exploring various initiatives throughout our through our Farm to School project, they have made the chance to try different meals prepared by our Farm to School staff, and many of them have expressed the desire to have more of those meals offered to them at their school regularly. Unfortunately, our current building has reached its capacity limits, and we need further investment to expand our efforts. This will enable us to provide our children with meals they wish to see included in their regular school menus. I'd like to emphasize the importance of shared decision-making and the need to improve our students, their parents, and the community in these discussions. Ultimately, it is our students who are most affected by these decisions, so their voices should be central to these conversations. I truly hope that we can move beyond this, beyond just expressing our support for this decision and actually demonstrate it through our actions. Thank you.
Thank you. Kyra Buell, did I say that right? I know that last name. Student, and she wants to talk about the food commissary. Welcome. How do you say your last name?
Kulu.
Say it again.
Kulu.
Cooley?
Yeah.
A Cooley? Okay.
Hello, fellow board members. I want to talk about an important issue in the BPS district. The food commissary needs to be rebuilt in order for students to eat healthy, non-processed, and more diverse foods. This can help students who don't have access to food at home and can provide students with the nutrition and energy they need to finish the day at school. The food commissary is run down and doesn't have enough space. It is poorly laid out and doesn't have the capacity to store all the produce to provide healthy foods to BPS students. There is not enough options for students to pick from. Most students have peanut allergies, but that's their only other option to eat besides the food that they are giving us. Fun fact, the Farm to School program cooked for one of our meetings, community health worker meetings, and the food was really good, and I would like to see that at my school. This can help students enjoy lunch at school, especially for students who don't have access to food at home. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jessica Bauer Walker, Student Voice.
Good evening, Superintendent and Board. I really want to speak on student voice tonight and just the importance of us making decisions together. We have several of our students with us tonight. I am the president of the Community Health Worker Parent and Student Association. We've done a lot of work just to make sure that we're making decisions with our students, doing things with them and not to them. I'm also a Hutch Tech parent. I think, we've had several situations where we want to make sure that our students are having a say on who their building administrators are, what types of foods they eat, and just to be at the table with making decisions. I'm really encouraged to see that a resolution around the commissary is moving forward. It's important that we take action, right? So you received an issue brief from us. You're hearing from several of our students and our parents, and you have before, about the need for more fresh, healthy, culturally appropriate food. We've worked in partnership with the food service department. Ruth Connor and her staff have been amazing in terms of coming and talking with us, taste testing with us. Some of the food we've really liked, some we haven't liked so much, but she's always been open to getting feedback from us and making changes, and has been going out to schools and really collaborating with us as parents and with students. We have a nutrition committee that includes all district stakeholders. So this is the kind of way that we want to be working moving forward, and we really hope that we can sit down with you and talk about what our plan is for the commissary. We're in a very challenging situation now because there has not been action. There's been a lot of confusion about what's happening and why. That's why we came together and wrote an issue brief. We've been working over the summer, having meetings, especially with our young people, so they understand how these processes work. They understand how to address issues, to come to the board meetings, to go to the Common Council, who's in charge of the city, who's in charge of Buffalo Public Schools, so that they can advocate on behalf of themselves. So they really want to be part of this decision. Those of us that have been working on the commissary and food and nutrition and food access as a public education and public health issue, we want to be at the table with you. So we support this moving forward and having a discussion about possibly having to lease, which we're disappointed about, but if it comes to that, it comes to that. I'm just asking for a little bit more time over the next month that we can all sit down together and have a conversation so that we can make sure there's accountability and transparency and especially the parents and the students that have been working on this issue and that we're accountable to as parent and student leaders can be a part of this process. So thank you for your consideration. Thanks for working with us, and I hope that we can collaborate on this issue and many others in the school year to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Adriana Zulich. I know I didn't spell your name, say it right, but you can correct me. Oh, is it D? Yes. Okay, sorry. Thank you. That makes sense. Welcome.
Hi. And before my time, just my dad's Hutch Tech, 74, and I think like 50's coming up. Hi, my name is Adriana Zulich, and I am a parent of 3 BPS students, as well as a co-chair of CPAC. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I've carefully listened to the speakers before me, and I'm grateful that we have this chance to voice our ideas to the board. I'm also grateful to the hardworking members of the school district who provide parents, community members, and students with the opportunity to speak up and be heard. I recently attended a Board of Education hosted workshop. The speaker presented a student outcomes-focused governance model. 2 key concepts are the reason school systems exist is to improve student outcomes, and school boards exist to represent the values and vision of the community. We had a hard talk how struggling is a dominant conversation around Buffalo Public Schools. It's time to change that narrative. With this framework, this board has the opportunity to make a transformational shift to improving student outcomes. Our community values educational justice. We value all students receive a quality education, including students with special needs. Language access is a value. So is teaching our youngest and most vulnerable students and not suspending kindergartners for nonviolent infractions. Our community values teachers and the education they provide. We value the district working collaboratively with all stakeholders, with civility. And we value action. Being in a community together doesn't mean that we all need to agree all of the time. When we listen with an open heart and mind, we learn new things and we can come together to meet a shared interest. When it comes to the BPS Food Commissary, I hope this is what we can do. We have consensus on the need for a new commissary. Let's model for our students how to work through adverse situations and have the outcome we all want in a timely fashion. The hang-up has been in the details of financing this build. If leasing is more viable than owning, let's do that. A new commissary will provide nutritious, delicious, whole food to our students. This is the big picture and should be the immediate goal. We've waited long enough. Fed children are learning children. We are a diverse district. Our community has a vision that BPS will continue becoming more equitable and vibrant. We have a vision that our children will thrive and blossom into their full potential, the very best student outcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Williams, would you like to respond to our speakers?
All righty. My voice is a little hoarse, so if it starts to go, that's why. Boy, Hutch Tech came out tonight, didn't they? You know, you almost make me wish I was a Hutch Tech alum. My goodness. I see the pride that you all have for your school, and it's what I would want to see for all of our schools. And I want to thank you. I know it's a August evening, and many of you, may not work, during the summer, but you've taken time out tonight to make your way to this wonderful school to share some very heartfelt words about an administrator that you see great value in. And I agree that that administrator is strong and a great leader. Sitting in the seat that I sit in, you know, this board has really been focused on equity in our district. And I think sometimes equity and equality kind of get used in the same vein, and they're very, very different. And sitting in my seat, I have a responsibility to try in all 60 of our schools to make sure that there's equity. And where I see student needs, to do whatever I can to try to spread equity across the board. And so, you know, all of the things that you shared tonight about this leader, you know, being in the hallways and engaging with students and the first to arrive, and, you know, the story about him even being willing to pick up a mop and do whatever it takes to make sure that the students at that school have the best that there is to offer is exactly what I need at all of our schools. And so I appreciate that you've come in, and I have great confidence in all of our leaders. I really do. And I think, you know, we've got to give the person that will be coming a chance. We got to give that person a chance to show that they also is a great leader. But it's the equity piece and seeing where there are needs across the district. This is not the only assistant principal that, you know, we've had to consider going somewhere else to take those great qualities, those strengths, to help strengthen, you know, another place. We didn't move the whole team. It's just one member of the team. And so I hope that, you know, we're getting ready to open school in a couple of weeks. I do wish that it had happened earlier. I agree with that. And, you know, I hope that as we're getting ready to open school, that we model for our children the same way that, you know, you're going to get a brand new class of about 300 freshmen that are going to be coming. And I can tell from what I see tonight how you're going to welcome them now into the Hutch Tech family. And I hope that the person that will be coming into your school as a leader will also be welcomed in as a part of the family. And I hope that this administrator that's going to some, you know, another place will be welcomed there too, because it sounds like he brings phenomenal strengths. And that's all I've ever heard about him, is that he's a great leader. And, you know, I believe that he will take all of the skills that you all have helped him to polish up another place and help to make that place just as great as Hutch Tech is. So I want to thank you for coming out. Know that you were heard by this board, and you were heard by our cabinet, and you were heard by me. All of the things that this leader means to your school. We have heard you. It's really about equity. It's about us trying to, you know, provide equity across the district so that all of our schools have the same kind of culture that's been established at Hutch Tech. Ms. Shippens, you know, you shared some things tonight that are concerning, that are very concerning. And I'm going to ask Chief Botticelli, we've got a whole department for ENL, and I know that, you know, we've got more than 90 languages that are spoke, so I know it can be difficult to have all of the languages translated for students that, you know, have to take exams. And I don't know what language this student spoke, if it's one of our top 7 or if it isn't, but it was? Okay. So I'm going to ask Ms. Botticelli if that's a gap, if that's something that we haven't been doing that we can do. You know, we certainly want to. I don't even know at the state level if it's really a state level issue and perhaps the state doesn't have the translated exams, but either way, you know, it's heartbreaking to hear that a student sat in summer school all summer and then got to the place where they had to take an exam and couldn't really access the exam. So Chief Botticelli, if you can reach out to Ms. Shippens so that we can see if there's anything we can do so that that doesn't happen again. President Spidell, thank you for recognizing, when staff and the board go above and beyond, because, in these times, whether it's being a board member or a staff member, it's tough. And that's whether you are, on the cafeteria line, in the security office, a teacher, teacher aide, principal, board member, cabinet member, it is tough. And people are quick to point out when things don't go right. And so sometimes it's nice to lift up and for someone to just hear the words that, I saw what you did and it's appreciated. So thank you for coming forward and recognizing, the hard work and the good work and the dedication of board members and of staff. I know that everybody appreciates that. Ms. Hussein, it's been a while. It's been a little while since I've seen you. This district is committed, and I could, put together the commissary concerns that were shared tonight, because this is a district that is committed to this commissary piece, but if I'm being honest, it is complicated. It is complicated. Think about the last time that this school district built a new state-of-the-art building, and think about the city and the last time that has happened. It is complicated. And, there are lots of regulations that, as one of the big 5 school districts, that we have to follow. And so my seat at the table, who I am as a person, is always open. I don't think you would be hard-pressed to find anybody in this district or in this city that has requested a meeting with me and I've said no. It doesn't happen. My table is open, and I know that some of our parent leads did reach out and ask for a meeting, and I believe I was agreeable to the meetings. And my table remains, the seats remain open. It's gonna take all of us coming together. You all bring a certain expertise. We've got legal that has expertise. We've got finance that has expertise. We got board members. We got the state ed department, and it's gonna take all of us sitting down to make sure that we're leaving no stone unturned and we're working together. So I am 100%, and I'm saying this publicly, committed to that happening. So know that we, at the end of the day, we all know what we want the end product to be. We want this commissary open. Now we got to get the process for how that has to happen right. And it's going to take all of us. And, if there's nothing that I do, I listen. I try to listen really, really closely and see, how I can make sure that all I's are dotted and all T's are crossed. So let's come together and let's work on how we can get this commissary open for our children, because they deserve it. They deserve it. We all do. So I'm very open to us working together on this. President Bauer Walker, been a little while since I've seen you. But the student voice piece, I could not agree more. It made it into our 5 by 2025. And, we had a tough budget year this year, had to cut $90 million. And, one of the things that I initiated was going out and talking to students. I wanted to know from the group that has no representation really as far as, any union or anything like that, what their thoughts were. What is it that they felt needed to stay in their schools for them to be successful? I don't know if that's been done in the past, and when I met with the kids, I wanted to meet with whoever wanted to meet with me. It wasn't just a certain grade level or a certain, academic average. Whoever wanted to meet was welcome to sit at the table and have a conversation. So I'm all about it. I've had students on my radio show. I encourage lifting student voice, because I think student voice has the potential to change policy at times. And many times our students know the answer. They just have to be asked the question and then we have to have the patience and the grace to listen to what it is they have to say. So I am 100% with you on us continuing to uplift student voice. Ms. Zulich, thank you for the comments that you shared. I agree with you, and I agree with what the Council of Great City Schools has said, that the only reason that we exist, the only reason, it's about the students, to impact student outcomes in a positive manner. So I completely agree with that. All of the value statements that you shared, there wasn't one. I listened to all of them. I tried to take as many notes as I could that I disagreed with. So I do agree with what you shared, and I want to thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. I got to say this officially, Dr. Tanja Williams-Knight.
Got a new last name here.
Yes, you do. Order of business. I want to let our listening audience know that prior to this meeting starting, we went into executive session to discuss the matter related to employment history, potential discipline, and dismissal of a specific district employee, and also for the purpose of receiving legal advice. No official action was taken. And moving forward, Superintendent, do you have an update today to share with us?
I do. I will be giving my time to our Chief Financial Officer. His name is Jim Barnes, and he will be presenting for us a 4-year financial plan, which is really a tool that will help to guide how we are progressing over the next several years. So, Mr. Barnes?
Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent. Good evening, Board. Yes, I'm here to present the 4-year plan for the 25-year assistant worker.
I don't think it's on. Thank you, Hutch Tech, again for coming out. Thank you.
Dr. Williams, I'm sorry, you didn't address the student that spoke.
I put her comments in with the commissary comments, but certainly I appreciate, you know, a student coming out also on a Wednesday night and having the courage to come forward and speak before this body. So I certainly do appreciate that.
Hello? Okay. Good evening, and thank you, Superintendent. Yeah, I'm here to present the 4-year financial plan. The Superintendent and I are both very happy to present this tonight. It's the last of our planning sessions. We have the budget complete, and the second essential part of good financial management is to get the 4-year plan out, communicated, reviewed by places like the Control Board, our external auditors, the City of Buffalo. This is an essential and required document. The bound copy was distributed to the board 3 or 4 weeks ago. This is simply a summary of that document. It's this document. I'm going to throw it on the ground. Sorry, I'm all discombobulated. They gave me a flicker. Probably gave that to the wrong guy. Okay. Some introductory comments. 4-year plan is required by the BFSA or Control Board. It's also a requirement of the City of Buffalo or external auditors in the state. It's a main and essential planning tool for the district. What I mean by that, you cannot successfully manage the district's finances simply through the budget process. That's a year-by-year document. It's very short-term in nature. If you only did that, you'd be reacting to the wild swings every year. Part of the success of our budgets year over year is that we put a lot of effort into our 4-year plan. It's planning versus reacting. This is a projection, but it's 100% data-driven. And by that, I'm going to explain it. It incorporates a projection of all the underlying critical variables: enrollment trends, staffing, union contracts, employee benefits, health insurance costs. The actual document I distributed 3-4 weeks ago has the assumptions behind every revenue and expenditure line. It also incorporates the financial consequences of the board's decisions within every fund, the A, C, F, H, and B fund. That means capital projects. That means things you're doing in food service. All of that is incorporated into this document for the purpose of ascertaining their impact on the district's fund balance. It incorporates and more clearly defines various issues that have been previously discussed with the board, including the second year of the superintendent's 2-year plan to right-size the district, the commissary, a well-defined and properly funded capital project that will include Da Vinci and Buff State, school closings, cost savings through a more robust internal audit department. Every one of these have been incorporated in prior discussions, documents, presentations. They're presented here within the 4-year plan. I do want to say that the issues facing the district and that were incorporated into this 4-year plan are amongst the most varied and consequential in decades. The last 7 4-year plans had a paragraph about gap closing measures are coming with the drop in enrollments and the increase in staffing and maintaining the same building footprint. This is the first time in over 10 years that these measures are finally incorporated into a plan. There have been no financial plans for making decisions until the superintendent put this 4-year plan together. That does deserve some applause.
One person's happy.
Wait till you see some of the issues, and you saw some of them in this year's budget process. This takes it to a whole nother level. And only through financial planning and adherence to the plan can we successfully navigate these challenges. And I also want to stress, capitalize upon the opportunities we have. Oh, I'm the guy who changes it. Hang on. So, a 4-year plan quantifies the future impact of our decisions and trends in enrollment and staffing and health insurance in 3 key areas: budget surpluses or deficits, impact on fund balance, and I talk a little bit about cash flow. So the next sections of this presentation are going to provide an overview of each. Now, 4-year plans are an accumulation of about 40,000 lines of data over a 5-year period. So they're typically hard to present, but this is the type of document that comes out. This first one is an analysis of our budgets. And I'm just going to touch on some key points. And if you have any questions after, send me an email. In the yellow columns, that's our historical data. And if you look down, I'm going to try this little pointer. That doesn't work either. At the bottom yellow line, 28.9, 42.3, that shows a strong history of surpluses. That's what's built up our fund balance to address the challenges of the future. And that's what gives us credibility with organizations like the state, our auditors, and the control board. Overall, what this document shows in the green section, that's the projections for 24-25 through 27-28. It's $199 million in deficits. There's a starting fund balance right at the bottom in blue, $397 million. It's being projected to reduce all the way down to $196.4 million in 27-28. Without these additional right-sizing actions that we're going to talk about a little later that are incorporated into these numbers, the district would run out of fund balance in 4 years. The additional FTE reductions that you'll see later on, if I remove them from the 4-year plan, we would run out of money. Second thing to pick up on this is those columns in yellow. Prior year history of audited results. We have a consistent record of surpluses and increases in fund balance. If you look at those two bottom lines, the fund balance and the unassigned fund balance rise every year. So again, right now, we are in very strong financial position. The surpluses and the increases in fund balance were intentional. The wise use of ARPESR funding and prudent budgeting and financial management has prepared the district for this post-ARPESR environment. The next thing is the column in blue. That's the projected 23-24 results. The audit is currently underway. We're projecting a $20.6 million surplus, thus an increase in our fund balance. So we're starting out this year in the strongest position we've ever been in. And we'll need it. The green sections, those are the budgets. The next one to look at is the budget for 24-25, that year one column. There's the $83 million deficit. That's the board approved budget for this year. Then the last part of this is the 3-year projections for the years 26 through 28. The deficits are, if you look at that bottom yellow line, and I know this is hard, we've cut the $83 million current year budget almost in half. But as our control board, external auditors say, there's still structural deficits. You still haven't gotten all the way down to zero. But because of the credibility from our past results, they think it's a sound plan. What it says is that we start out this year with $396 million in fund balance. And we end the plan in 2028 with $199 million in fund balance. Still healthy, just lower than the very healthy position we're currently in. Okay. The next page I just summarized, and Superintendent Nichelle put this fancy presentation together. She did a great job. My comments that I just made on the prior chart are listed here for your reference, okay? Now, the second part of a 4-year plan is what is the impact on your fund balance? The purple up here is our fund balance and how it's segregated out according to general accounting principles and state regulations. You see the 26-30-24, there's the $396 million that we keep talking about. The purple lines, those are funds that are restricted. They're required by policy or have assignments against them. While you're looking at this chart, again, I'm just going to make some comments. We report on the total fund balance amount, $396 million. However, the total fund balance is comprised of restricted, assigned, and unassigned amounts. This is very important to understand. In addition to that, the district must maintain a minimum unassigned fund balance of 4% of the projected budget for the following year. To boil that down, that $396 million, super healthy. But there are restrictions for prudent financial management that are dictated by the state or accounting principles. So of the 396, what we have free to use is 156 million at this time. The 4-year plan projects a total fund balance of 396 with an unassigned fund balance of 156 million. The projected deficits decrease the total fund balance down to 196 at the end. We just saw that in the prior table. It's just broken out here, just fund balance. The reason for the decline is the deficits. So, I really thank you for your patience as I get through this. The comments I just made are listed here for your future reference. And the third document, you typically don't view cash flow. The superintendent and I look at our cash flows at least on a monthly basis. I'll go through the key points on this again, all right? And then you can come back and look at it at your leisure. Everything we do in finance boils down to the impact on our cash flows and available balances. Our payroll, our state aid submissions, checks to vendors, invoicing to other companies, the collection of those. Available cash balances fluctuate throughout the year. What this document shows is way up in the top left corner. At the end of, we'll have $417 million starting balance, okay? That top section, those are our revenues. The bottom section are our disbursements. During July, we're projecting, and I even got a $61 million outflow of funds, which reduces our actual cash from the 417 down to 356. There's a bigger point in this that I don't intend for you to get focused on all these numbers, but they're assiduously tracked, both the revenues and the expenditures. Our expenditures are pretty stable throughout the year. However, our revenues, I want to point this out. In that top section, you see in the months of July, August, September, October, and November, we barely get any state aid. And what that does, if you look at the ending balance, it'll drive our cash balance down to as low as $200 million. So I'm always presenting at the end of periods, and we've been lucky, and I'm always saying we got 400 million, but that fluctuates throughout the year. That's going to be important at the end when we talk about the decisions that are coming. So what this table shows quickly, a beginning cash balance of 417, top left, bottom right, an ending balance of 327. That's due to the deficits. An $83 million deficit we budgeted for this year. A couple of other things to note. And this goes to the size, scope, and the complexity of the district this board is responsible for. We spend on average $100 million a month. Our payroll, FICA, and health insurance is $58 million a month. Those things come out every month, but there's fluctuations in our revenues. We don't get our state aid, which is 85% of our revenues, until December through May. During that interim period, that bottom line, our cash can drop to as low as $200 million. The reason I wanted to present this, coming up on the decisions the board will be making, we are in very strong financial position, better than any of the big five. However, we're so big, the timing of our cash is also important, and how we fund decisions like Da Vinci and the commissary. If you veer away from sound financial practice, you could, during a month where it's 200 million, drive it down to $20 million. Then you're worried about covering payroll. You're worried about running checks to vendors. Only through following the plan that you guys will agree to and implementing solutions to the decisions that are here, can you maintain a safe cash balance? So as strong as we are, what I wanted to say, it's still a precarious situation because we're so big. And we just really have to be understanding of the consequences of our decisions. Okay, I know I spoke a lot there, but I think it's important. Now I'm going to turn to, these are my comments on cash flow I just made for your future reference. All right, specific assumptions on major decisions. Remember what a four-year plan is. It incorporates with solid financial analysis and trend data, solutions and potential outcomes for things that this board has talked about and seen for over a year. So the assumptions underlying these projections were clearly explained in the executive summary of the bound four-year plan. They're provided below for a little discussion. All these assumptions are based upon sound and practical financial analysis. I want to be real clear on this, though. The decisions require board support and action to fully implement. So what I'm going to present here is best case financial analysis. The board will make the decisions on these. Enrollments. This one none of us can do about, but it's core to the four-year plan. The enrollment count that's used to calculate our foundation aid is called TAFR. This critical measure includes both BPS and charter tuitions. It's expected, it's projected to drop by 200 students per year throughout the four-year plan. And that could mean 400 kids come into charters and we lose 600. That's 200. It doesn't matter for our foundation aid calculation. But that is very reflective of the steadily slowing decreases in our enrollment and the steadily decreases in charters increases. The city is just at an absolute saturation point in terms of the overall enrollments for both BPS charters, and you could even add the private schools. There's just no new kids overall. Staff reductions. This is always like an alarming thing to say, but this was part of last year's budget process. This was the two-year plan. The second year of the plan calls for an additional reduction of 200 FTEs. This is enrollment driven again. No kids get hurt. Look at the implementation of that first year. I don't even think it ended up in any layoffs, and all the investments in security and athletics and social emotional wellness were kept. We just got to do it smart. The proposed strategy to accomplish this is selective hiring and position cuts of an expected 300 retirements and cutting a further TOSA positions. There's still, we cut 36 in this year's budget, there's still 180 of them. But these are specific decisions the board will make during next year's budget process. If we don't do further right sizing, remember, we would run out of cash. We're getting that much less than aid because of the enrollment process. We talked during the budget process about school closing and consolidations. It's more than just FTE cuts. You got to reduce your physical footprint. And again, I do want to say this, whoever clapped last time, this is the first time in 10 years these issues have been addressed head on. School closing and consolidations, effective for 25-26. We've begun the planning process for the closure of 2 schools. Because we're early in the process, this plan assumes $2 million per year in total savings. I'm very conservative, it could be 5. And these savings are included in what I call a contingency line. Okay, we just got a couple more. We talked about, and I've gotten calls from almost all of you about inventory controls, audits. Well, there's an implementation of a robust internal audit department. This is essential in assisting all departments do 2 things. Identify operating efficiencies and create written operating procedures. The two people in this department will accomplish that with total focus. And we expect, and this is some of the work Andrew Onigi does. I'm gonna bring him to the next meeting. Several of you have met him. He's our controller. He's phenomenal. He believes we can bring back at least $500 to $1 million per year. The capital fund, a capital project plan, and debt financing. This goes to, these last two go, we don't fund them properly, if they're not structured properly, and we do know how to do this stuff. Beware of the impact on that cash balance in those low months. So, the general funds provided approximately $29 million in transfers to the capital fund over the past 24 months. A large amount of this was used on projects that were not even equal. Based upon our financial outlook covered in the plan, no further transfers to capital for unaidable or unplanned projects are included. During the 24-25 year, the district will implement a well-defined and strictly implemented capital improvement plan. David Hills, Mel, and his 4 project manager staff have done an exceptional job in putting the list together, and it's basically the Da Vinci project, plus about 20 projects for health and safety concerns that have been ignored. Lighting projects, window replacement, lead abatement. Instead of all the grandiose projects, there's like 30 million of bread and butter projects that will improve the environment for the kids. The beauty of that, they were also chosen because they qualified for building aid, and they can be completed relatively quickly. So the funding for these projects, including Da Vinci, is going to come from $54 million bond offering through the city and $10 million in general fund transfers to capital. Again, I want to go back. All these are decisions this board has to make. I just put in there sound financial structures and ways to actually accomplish these and their impact on our fund balance. These will all be coming up to the board, and then it's your turn. The last one, a new commissary. This plan assumes a lease for a new commissary sometime in the 24-25 year. We all want to get this decision done. That'll begin after the construction is completed, say 25-26. It's projected that the additional lease costs will cause sizable deficits in the C fund. That's what we want, because we need to reduce the excess fund balance. The lease, not a purchase, and there's various, one, legally we can't purchase a building. The lease of a new commissary facility will address 2 issues in the shortest possible time frame. A safe new facility offering greater variety of healthy foods using the cook-to-chill method, and implementing, this is often left out of our discussions, a plan to draw down the excess surplus held within the C fund. So, you could pick other ways to do it. Again, generally accepted accounting principles, sound financial analysis, this is how I put it in there. You could put it in there in different, it comes before the board. So it's assumed that all construction costs and incidentals will be paid for by the contractor, reimbursed through the lease payment. I had to get this $38 million item into the plan, or it would have been irresponsible to submit a plan knowing you're planning on spending $38 million. So I chose this method to put it in there. It's the fastest, quickest way to do it. So in summary, the 4-year plan provides critical financial insight into the consequences of our decisions beyond the 24-25 year. Incorporated into the 4-year plan is year 1 of the superintendent's 2-year plan. And again, some of you might say, oh, how are we going to do all that in 25, 26? Well, you didn't think the superintendent could do it in 24, 25, and she did. And investments that were made in security, athletics, health, safety, they were all kept. We cut out vacancies, unnecessary positions. So it's clear from the analysis that further right-sizing efforts are required. That's the FTE reductions and the school closings. Again, if I don't put those in the plan, we run out of cash. And then if properly funded, there's like a great opportunity to advance the commissary and the Da Vinci State projects along with some much-needed health and safety projects. You won't even, if it's properly funded, you won't even see the impact. Thank you. Do we have any questions?
Superintendent? Are there any questions, board member? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Barnes. I just have one question for you. We always, you said that you were conservative with your projections, but somehow or another we always end up with a surplus coming back to us.
Yep.
And I'm wondering if the last financial report I saw, I was wondering as I was reading it, I can't remember which one it is that had we been a little bit less conservative, maybe we could have kept some additional employees in our math department. And so when I saw that money coming back, I'm like, did we miss an opportunity to keep staff employed?
That's an excellent question. One, the math teachers were added back. They were. No positions were lost because of the conservative budgeting. And the superintendent has that flexibility of superintendent add backs because of the large surplus. So I agree, your question is right on, but those positions were restored through the superintendent add backs.
I didn't know that all the positions were, I thought we restored all 11? I thought we only restored 6.
6, 8, I think Maria Wood gave us the count of 9.
Yeah, I don't want to give a specific number. Chief Botticelli, I don't even know if you have the number of math teachers, but I know that there were some, I think, that were certified in other areas that were able to go into elementary classrooms. But I don't believe that we had any actual cuts, people out of jobs that are math certified.
You're saying they were removed, okay.
Yeah, we added,
that's
the
encouraging.
super added back over 100 positions.
That's encouraging.
Yes.
Mr. Hurd, did you have a question?
Yes.
Or concern?
Yes, just one question. I'm looking at your numbers for 2024-25, and you're looking at about an $83 million surplus.
Deficit.
The deficit, but it drops to 36 million.
Yep.
The following year. What accounts for that?
250 FTE reductions, $1 million in internal audit reductions, a revenue increase because of the 3% CPI factor that we get in our foundation aid, various other things.
With the aging of our buildings and other capital projects that's coming up, how will we assume those then with such a deficit?
If properly funded and the projects properly chosen, for example, in this batch, we're calling them health and safety concerns. It's lighting projects, it's lead abatement, it's window replacement, it's PA system replacement, fixing up schools. Those projects are 98% building aidable. If you do them right, choose the right projects, you get building aid over 15 years to pay for them, but you got to pay your vendors up front, right? That's why we go to the bond market. We pay them with the bond proceeds, we repay the bond over 15 years, and it works out to almost the exact same penny of what we get in building aid. There's no impact, it's a 3% cost impact to the district.
Only reason I asked that was because we know we got schools with more issues and problems that hasn't been addressed yet, and we're addressing those in the upcoming years. And with freak things that's going on right now, like tornadoes or wind damage or water damage to our buildings, how do we maintain that and keep our budget? That's my only concern about how we
that's a good question.
And the development of new projects also.
Yeah, that's a good question. Again, if the projects are properly chosen, properly funded, and you vet them for building aid, and then if it crosses a certain amount, say 20 million, you access the bond market. It has a negligible impact on the district's finances. If you don't do that, if you throw aside the right structure of the financing or the right choice of projects, it's cash out of pocket and you will run out of cash. And David, Mel, and his team, is it 4 project managers there? They've done an exceptional job picking the list.
Okay, thank you. Paulette, Board Member Woods.
To CFO, I
Yes,
give you
Ms.
great respect for emphasizing that if projects are chosen correctly, and if they are aidable, and we go after the aid,
Yep.
then that is the best procedure for using our funds, Buffalo Public Schools funds, and doing a excellent financial management plan.
Yep.
Your words, I respect it, and I hope that with the commissary project, that you will be open to continue your strong, wise financial advice.
Yeah. I think there's a hidden comment in there, but yes, the answer is yes. Yeah.
Yes, Board Member Makosi.
Okay, so this might be a naive question, but knowing that the city is going through some real financial turmoil,
Yes.
and are we secure in this 50 million, plus million bond we're receiving from the city?
Yeah.
If a control board is brought in, will that be taken? Like, I'm just confused if
That's a great question.
that might be an issue.
It should not be. If there's no indication a control board will be instituted this year, and potential increases maybe next year, I shouldn't be commenting on their situation. It should have no impact on access to the bond market. When our projects are state aidable, the bondholders like that. They want to buy our bonds because the repayment stream is very secure. But great question.
Okay, all minds settled. Thank you so much, Superintendent, for is there any other updates? Okay, Superintendent has concluded her updates. Thank you. And thank you for the work. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from July the 17th, 2024 board meeting? I saw Board Member McCutcheon, second by Board Member Makuzi. Okay, thank you. Next, may I have a motion to accept the consent agenda? I saw Vice President Brown and Board Member Paulette Woods. Thank you. Consent agenda, 17B, Terry Shuda. Comment. It is the College Bound Initiative.
Can you hear?
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to thank staff for making sure that this happened with the Student Leadership Network. I see firsthand at the high school in my district the great work they're doing. And I was lucky enough to be meeting with Kayla, the counselor over there, through the Student Leadership Network, and she showed me a video of a young lady walking into her dorm room for the first time. And I'll share it with you, Dr. Williams-Knight. And it's really taken things to the next level. And so I just appreciate the support in getting this through. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I have a question as to what schools are, so how do schools get selected? Because I don't see all the high schools on here. Can anyone answer that?
East High School, IPrep, South Park, Burger, MST.
MST is not on here. They're adding them?
Good evening. 208, which is Riverside, 309 East, 206 South Park, 305 McKinley, 198 IPrep, 301 Burger.
Right, okay. So my question is, how did schools get selected? I mean, is it available for other schools and principals chose not to do it, or what?
They presented to all of the high schools 2 years ago.
Okay,
And the principals had to decide whether or not they wanted to work with the organization. Some
Okay.
schools had funds to pay for it the first year, because last year was the first full year of implementation. And it was very successful. I really enjoyed working with the organization. The principals enjoyed working with the organization. Students had support from September through June. And they're probably supporting them over the summer. I just don't know it yet because I was so wrapped up in summer school. But nonetheless, I think it's a good support system for our students and their families.
okay, thank you. So I was contacted at the Erie County School Board Association law conference that I attended this summer by an organization, and I would like permission, Dr. Williams-Knight, to bring the ASL in so that she can review it and see if they may be able to provide additional resources for some of the schools high schools that are not listed here. I don't want to put their information out until we talk with them, so I'll be sharing it with you. And they're asking for a meeting, so maybe we can talk with them. But it is a program, and it is totally no cost to the district. Okay?
Okay.
See, people come, they bring good things to us. All right. No, the program that was brought to me is no cost to the district. They want to come into the district, and it's very similar in nature. That's why I brought it up. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, ASL Watson. And I just want to say you've done a phenomenal job in your new role. We're lucky to have you there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next, 19A. 19A, Mr. Hurd, Stair Plaza reconstruction at PS 200 Bennett High School.
Yes, thank you. I have a couple of questions about the project for the stairs at Bennett High School. I brought this to the district back in 2020, I believe, about the condition of the stairs. They were deteriorated and gapping with holes. And from then, the district, we set aside money and we voted to pay to have the Army Corps of Engineers to come and do a study on the stairs and see what they can do to make them safe. And then I believe we also paid again for the contractor to service that, which the board voted on. And as of right now, the work hasn't been finished. So how much money have we paid so far? And is this additional cost that we're asking, $2,140,000 to resume this project, complete this project, or what's going on with the prior contractor that was employed for it?
So the prime contractor that was engaged to demolish and to reconstruct the steps at Bennett with the new heating system, there were multiple cure actions, there were multiple deficiencies that were noted in the work, there were multiple delays that led the district to terminating that contract. We still are working with the architect of record, Carmina Wood, and we've been doing we did a complete assessment of the project, and we went back to the bids, and the second bidder on the original bid was engaged, and the architect, and we assessed the issues with PEX piping that was inappropriate, with concrete that was already chipping, with inappropriate drainage, with uneven pads, with cracking that was already in place. All those issues were assessed, and there was a demolition of everything that was deficient and a restart of much of the project. The primes that had done good work were re-engaged by the new contract, which you see there. Some of them had not been paid, so they were brought up to speed, particularly with the PEC system, the heating system. The boilers were appropriately installed, and the piping was appropriately installed, but when the concrete was poured in inappropriately, it led to damage to the piping. So that we have retained some of those subs to work with the new prime contractor. The only sub that we did not retain because their work was poor was responsible for the concrete work. So the new contractor is engaging a different sub and working on the concrete work. And we've obtained many samples of the new contractor being able to do similar pours and with high quality results.
Thank you for staying on top of this, because we heard a lot of complaints from the community about the condition of the stairs, especially around graduation time when kids are supposed to take pictures there. So what monies that we incurred, or money are we getting back from the previous contract and the work that was done, or the equipment that was purchased that wasn't damaged?
So we are currently in the process of, one, fast-tracking the demolition of the inappropriate work and re-engaging and getting this project done in a timely fashion. So that work actually started last Wednesday of deploying and demolishing. We are engaged in a multi-front effort to recover the sunk costs, and I don't know how much Mary will let me comment on that, but it involves first engaging the bonding company and engaging in recovering whatever we can from what was already paid.
If we don't recover, I'm sure we're not going to recover 100% after the purchase and some of the work that was done on it. Are we going to lose on this project more than what anticipated, or is it going to be a number of court issues that might appear saying that work was done, that was completed, that was done?
We have, and then Jim will answer, but we have from back in November, we have engaged in rigorous document collection, photographic evidence, architectural assessments. So we have done our due diligence, and we given multiple opportunities to cure. So we have collected the best portfolio we can collect to be in a strong position to recover funds. Until it happens, we cannot guarantee.
Thank you for staying on top of that. I believe we answered everything.
The nice thing about the procedures that the board has set up is that when questions like to that magnitude are asked at the table, if they are asked prior to the board having their meeting, it becomes a permanent part of the record, which would have been nice to have that part. If that question had been asked of the staff before this meeting, we would have it written and we would have it as a permanent part of the record so that people from outside of the district or outside of this meeting in the future would do it. So I encourage board members to use that process because those are good questions, but at the end of the day, if you don't watch the board meeting, you don't get the answer, okay? Staff has down here another question for you, Mr. Hurd, and it's confusing because it says it's 19D, and I don't see a 19D, so.
21B.
No, I'm looking at what I'm looking at. Okay, so so we'll move to 21B. 21B. Who does? My bad.
Next
okay.
one is 21B.
I have that he has a question on 20D. That's what I have.
That's correct.
Okay, oh, so it's 20, okay, 20D, my bad. Well, not my bad, but 20D, it is what it is. Sorry about that.
This is the invoice for Hodges and Russ. Just like to know a little bit more about this invoice.
Oh, I'm sure. Wait, this is one of the invoices from outside counsel. We do have certain outside counsel, like an open engagement letter that we do consult on certain matters for outside counsel. The initial contact with all outside counsel does generally go through me. I will initiate the reach out based on usually the question in their area of specialty. For this one, I believe it was from a couple of months ago, so it would have been to consult with someone based on, I think at that time I was only here for 7 months, who had experience giving advice to the board previously. So that's kind of the context of it. It's somebody who I understand did regularly give advice to the board and also to several other districts. So that was the context of the invoice. I can't get into in open meetings as far as the content of discussions that took place with the outside counsel. That would be something that we would have to go into executive session for, just given the attorney-client privilege. But I hope that has provided at least some context.
Well, I don't believe I was there for that session, but my question was based upon if we're paying for advice from attorneys and the board didn't approve for a person to go to an attorney and ask for legal advice.
There are generally, with professional services, a lot of times we do often have to go to the consult. With the procurement process, it is a little bit different, and we go through, this is the process that has been followed in the past, where we will consult the attorney that is like we have a relationship with and we do have some engagement with, and then that's when the invoices come to the board for approval. That is my understanding as to what the process has generally been here.
So any board member can go to attorney for legal advice?
As I indicated earlier, all contact with outside counsel generally goes through me first, because we do handle the vast majority of questions, legal proceedings, and everything in-house. That is what we are here for, that is what we are paid to do, and that is what we intend to do to the greatest extent possible. There are certain areas where we want to ensure that we are giving the best advice possible, so we will consult with experts in certain fields that we can learn from, and then hopefully be able to handle all questions of that nature in the future in-house, if that makes sense. But yes, they do go through me. It's not like any board member just reaches out on their own, individual or anything like that. There may be discussions with certain board members based on questions, but it would still go through me as the general counsel.
Okay, I just want to be respectful here. My question is based upon, because due to previous conversation that we had, that if I wanted to seek legal advice, that you'll have to go before the board. That was your response to it.
That was not, and we can take that offline. It was a different context that we had spoken about.
That's true, it's different content, but I'm just looking at the course of if a board, any board member wanted legal advice.
No.
Or to obtain.
They would not be able to go to an attorney and then submit a bill or anything like that. It goes through us, and it is for district business, representing the district and the district interest, because that's obviously my role as general counsel, representing the district and the board and kind of that entity in and of itself. So that's where that comes from. It's those questions that we would go to outside counsel for.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Again, Mr. Hurd, 21B, and then 22A also.
21B was referring to, just a comment. We talked about before about the district purchasing vehicles and with that using warranties and obtaining maintenance. Here again, I see once again releasing vehicles through a enterprise fleet management. And I would like to take the district to take a look and see if it's possible that we can look to purchase these vehicles and save monies. I believe before we saved about $340,000 by purchasing the vehicles ourselves and using extended warranties, and also having the resale value of trade-ins added in if we were to trade the vehicles in for new vehicles. So if we can just find a way, or if it's feasible, that we can see if we can purchase these box trucks instead of leasing them out and causing us incurrence of monies.
That was raised last year also. We have procured some vehicles outside of the lease. One thing to note about the enterprise lease, it's an equity-based lease. So there are 10 vehicles that technically their lease period ended on June 30th. We will continue the lease payments for them, and in January, those 10 2019 express vans will become district property at that point. So the equity-based lease is a space in between a straight lease and a purchase. We are able, if you, one of the vehicles that we're working with is we have a Tahoe that was rented for it was leased for $745 a month. We are exchanging that back. We're getting an invoice credit, and that invoice credit of about $11,000 based on the Blue Book value will fund we still need to have vehicles for our security, will fund a cheaper vehicle. So that we are able to do that too. The lease does give us some flexibility, and it does have that when the lease term ends, plus usually about 5 months, the vehicle becomes our property. So that box truck that you referred to will become in 4.5 years our property. And in looking at what a box truck would cost currently, and at what this box truck will wind up costing us, there's a minimal markup for the lease flexibility.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, but here it says 29 vehicles that were being leased at this time.
So we lease currently, starting in 2017, we started leasing. So 29 of our fleet out of the 66 vehicles are leased. This year, that we will look at leasing 5 more, but we will acquire 10 of those will become our property. So at next year, and then the next year, there are 8 more that will become our property halfway through next year. And our aim, the design of an equity-based lease is you get new vehicles every 4 years, you just churn them over. But our aim is to use our garage to keep the vehicles on the road as long as we can, because once they're our property, we can invest in them.
A quick comment. Amongst the other projects David had, he's really wrapped his arms around our fleet management, including leasing, purchasing, but also upgrading the quality of those vehicles through both leases and vehicles. Some of them were in absolute horrible shape, and they've been replaced and upgraded, and more are planned. Secondly, he's conducted the first auction in probably 5 years, whereby we got rid of 16 vehicles that were broken down and occupying space. He's really doing a good job through the fundamentals of cleaning up scrap vehicles and upgrading the fleet. I just want to say that. He's worked closely with us.
Thank you. Larry Scott, number 22A, Council of Great City Schools Annual Membership, and then Mr. Hurd on the same issue.
I think the question is for Dr. Caresses. Do we have a signed contract with the consultants that we're working with through Council of Great City Schools? And has there been any cost incurred as a result of the work that they're doing with us, other than accommodations, travel expenses, et cetera?
It's a signed contract for 2 years for $30,000 plus travel expenses. The $30,000 was paid, and then there have been some, ongoing travel expenses, fairly minimal, over the last 12 months or so.
So then this $48,000, I believe it is, is separate from.
Right, these
that
are just the
work.
membership dues for the Council of Great City Schools. It's separate and apart from the consulting contract and the training work.
And I know it's been discussed before, but is there, other than the consulting that they're providing us, what other work, training, what other assistance do they provide us as due to that membership?
That the council provides?
Yes.
So we would have access to all of the programs and training that they routinely offer, all of the study groups that members of the cabinet, superintendent is a part of, board members may be a part of, to access the services and the kind of the breadth and scope of the work of the Council of Great City Schools. You do have to be a member. So that's what these annual dues pay.
Thank you.
Mr. Hurd?
I yield the floor.
For the record,
Oh, I'm sorry.
on this item, I strongly support looking toward and focusing on student achievement. I do not respect or support interference in elections of current board members or interference in the election of this ongoing board. And for that purpose, because that group has done that, and I attended a meeting for political purposes, I vote no. I have no confidence. Thank you. For the record.
Okay. I guess everybody's entitled to their opinion. Next, okay. Are there any more concerns or questions in regards to this consent agenda? The resolution for the commissary will be pulled out of this vote, and it will be handled separately. Oh, did I miss someone? I thought I did everyone. I'm sorry, 22A is, as I did. And I don't have any more. Am I missing something? Okay, we're good? All right. Hi, Mary. Would you poll the board, please, for the consent agenda? Yes.
On the consent agenda, without the board resolution, which is item 26A, Vice President Evans Brown. Any exceptions? Board Member Hurd.
I'd like to recuse myself for 9B family, 11A and 11B affiliation, and no on D20. I truly don't believe that the district should have to pay for board members who may have displaced words, and also no for 22A.
Board Member McEachen. No exception. Board Member McCosey.
Recuse for 11C, child in that school.
And other than that, no exception. Board Member Rivera.
No exception.
Board Member Shuta. Vice President Scott.
Recusal on 20F and 20H due to affiliation of people that are named in those invoices. An exception 20D.
Board Member Woods.
Exception 20D, exception 20A, and on 26A, there's $30 million available for us if we take that item and consider the advice of our CFO that we should go and look at anything that's aidable. $30 million is available if we take some consideration on 26A. So exception 26A. I need that $30 million for our kids.
Okay. 26A is not included, but on this one, but it'll be noted. And President Belton Cotman.
No exception.
And the consent agenda does pass.
Thank you. Now, 26A, resolution for commissary submitted by Honorable Cindy McEachin.
Someday I will get that right. So before I read the resolution regarding the commissary, I do want to acknowledge the hard work done by both the district personnel as well as the parents and students who we see every month tirelessly advocating for a new commissary. They're not here right now, but Ed, I see you in the back. I still see you. Frankly, it's their voices that brought me to action at this moment. I want to thank the parent leaders for their candid conversations and the time they took to share their thoughts and concerns with me and with other members sitting at the table. The recent issue brief released this month by several parent leaders, it was appreciated. Speaking for myself, I'm a visual learner and I read it in full, and it was glaringly obvious to me that we, the Board of Education, are currently the bottleneck keeping the district from moving forward with next steps. On September 8th, 2022, we, the Board of Education, authorized the superintendent to negotiate a lease. We did that. The same thing that I'm requesting tonight. 1 year later, on September 20th, 2023, we, the same governing body, the Board of Education, changed the decision to pursue outright purchase, only to learn much later that we are not legally allowed to purchase a building. And now we know this to be true. Therefore, our option is once again leasing.
Okay, wait a minute, point of order here. Point of order. Okay, the resolution needs to be read and then accepted into the record, and then we can have, you can do your comment. Right now, the people don't know what you're, we haven't brought it to the table yet. Okay. No, she can, you can continue with you, but typically you would read the resolution, and then you would comment after you've read the resolution, your concerns, we want to hear them. But right now, the resolution is on the floor to be read, and then the board agrees to accept it, and then we open up for comment.
At this point, I'm almost, should I finish or not finish? Okay.
I'm just letting you know, it's not,
Okay.
that's how it's done.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. To date, no conversations about what we can do or what this would look like, the lease, have taken place. And that's because of us, because we haven't made this decision, again, to just authorize the superintendent and the district personnel to do what we originally authorized them to do. We're just going back to it. This resolution does not agree to any lease terms. It doesn't agree to anything. It just allows the district to once again resume or begin conversation with stakeholders, both the development company and the community, including negotiating the terms. And the goal is for we all want this, to bring the commissary to life. Speaking for myself, I'm committed to seeing the project through and engaging student and community voice. When planning officially commences, it is important that we all have a seat at the table, regardless of the outcome of this vote tonight. And I know this has been tenuous, and I am going to read this resolution.
Would you please?
I am just grateful to have had the opportunity to bring this back up to light and to move it forward. Whereas Buffalo Public Schools Central Commissary's current lease is coming to an end in 2025, and the facilities have been outgrown in square footage and capacity to meet the current needs of the district, and whereas the Buffalo City School District previously requested proposals to develop a new location for the Buffalo Public Schools Central Commissary, and of the 4 responses that were submitted on September 8th, 2022, the Buffalo Board of Education authorize the superintendent to negotiate a preferred developer agreement with the Maguire Development Company for a new food commissary. And whereas the board resolved on September 20th, 2023, to instead pursue an outright purchase of the commissary as an economical approach to obtain the new commissary as opposed to leasing it. Whereas the district explored every potential option with respect to an outright purchase and the viability thereof, and despite its diligent efforts, it has discovered that an outright purchase is not a viable option within the time constraints of the district's needs, and also is not a guarantee, as the district, who is not legally allowed to hold title to real estate as a matter of law, is dependent upon another legal entity and multiple municipal processes, and thus multiple approvals in order to obtain authority to purchase. Whereas an outright purchase of the commissary is no longer a feasible option at this time, and the district now wishes to continue pursuing negotiating a lease for the new commissary at 1016 and 1044 East Delavan, the proposal that best met the specifications of the subject request for proposals as originally intended. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to negotiate a lease with Maguire Development Company Avenue for a new commissary located at 1016 and 1044 East Delavan as originally intended. And be it further resolved that the superintendent and her staff are directed to negotiate an amended preferred developer agreement with the Maguire Development Company as the original preferred development agreement has since expired. And be it further resolved that said developer agreement shall contain critical milestones, including but not limited to phase and cost budgeting, the negotiation and execution of a lease, proof of site control, proof of financing, environmental clearances, guaranteed maximum price, and commitments from other parties. And be it further resolved that if any of the milestones are not met, the superintendent may void the preferred development designation and negotiate with another developer who submitted a response to the request for proposals or choose to issue another request for proposals. And be it further resolved that the superintendent will update the board regularly and as requested by the board on the status of lease negotiations. And be it further resolved that the superintendent is authorized to execute any documents needed to consummate the preferred development agreement on the district's behalf.
Also, be it further resolved that the superintendent will continue to engage with the BPS stakeholder community to receive input on the development of the commissary.
Okay, so let's get the motion to accept the proposed resolution as presented to the board. Okay? Okay, may I have?
Point of order, I believe it's a motion to suspend the 48-hour rule that's set forth in the policy.
Okay, thank you. My correction. First of all, we need to suspend the 48-hour rule as per our policy because this was not given to the board in a timely manner. Okay, so I need a motion to accept that. Larry, Cindy. Larry and Cindy? Oh, okay, Larry and Terrence. Okay, now, next steps. Okay. Right, okay. All in favor? All in favor? Roll call vote.
On the motion to suspend the 48-hour rule, Vice President Evans-Brown.
What am I voting for?
To suspend the 48-hour rule to entertain the resolution.
To bring it to the table.
Okay, yes.
Bringing it to the table.
Board Member Hurd.
Yes.
Board Member McKecken. Yes. Board Member Makosi.
Yes.
Board Member Rivera. Yes. Board Member Shuta. Yes. Vice President Scott.
Yes.
Board Member Woods.
No.
And President Felton-Cotman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Okay, so what just happened is that we're able now to bring this to the table at this point, okay? So now we need a motion, right, to accept or for the board to review the resolution. Is that right? Yes, it is. It has to be put on the table. So we're putting this on the table for discussion, ultimately, is what we're doing here. So now, can we move forward with that? May I have a motion to accept this proposed resolution as it currently sits? Jennifer, what? 1 second. Jennifer, who's second? Terry, second. Okay. Now, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We're gonna have to go through that. Okay, I'm gonna make sure, because I don't want any drama, okay? Now, Cindy, you proposed this. Are you at this point asking for a friendly amendment to this?
Yes.
Okay, and that friendly amendment will come through Jennifer. Okay, all right, so can we hear what your friendly amendment is?
The amendment reads, be it further resolved that the superintendent will continue to engage with the BPS stakeholder community to receive input on the development of the commissary.
Okay, all right. You accept that as a friendly amendment? Okay. Mary?
We need a second, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, may I have a second? This is not running smooth.
No, this is, I think it's the motion to amend the resolution now.
Okay, motion to amend the resolution now, thank you. Okay. Terrence, second. Ann. Okay, all in favor? All are in favor. No, any opposed? Paulette Woods is opposed. Okay, one opposed at this point. Okay, now we can have the discussion about the resolution. Okay, is there any additional discussion about this resolution? Okay.
I have one.
Okay, Dr.
All right, so
Evans Brown, you have the
I
floor.
was in a meeting along with Larry Scott and President Cotman as recent as Monday, and we had a discussion about the commissary. A lot of the discussion including the community. Dr. Williams-Knight made a suggestion that she would be willing to meet with a couple of, or develop a committee and meet with the committee to include a couple of board members, community members, along with parents, etc. So while I concur with this issue of a new commissary that's critical for our BPS district, I think this resolution is not warranted today. Dr. Williams-Knight, I think she needs to have an opportunity. You saw where parents came in, there were community people, ongoing. I think Ed Spidell even mentioned that he wants to be part of the conversation. And they're due that right. So before a resolution is passed, that needs to happen. We need to give her that respect. Thank you.
Okay, we have Board Member McCosey.
So I'm under the impression, and correct me if I'm wrong, that this resolution is not saying that we're doing this and that's final. This resolution is actually opening up the opportunity to have all these conversations, including creating the space to make sure that the conversations with the board members and this committee you're putting together will happen, and it will happen officially because this resolution is going through. So it would be no conversation that wouldn't be documented, that wouldn't be, I'm looking to secure the fact that the community is involved, it's on paper, it's with the district, and that's, to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, this resolution is strictly opening up the conversation for us to discuss the possibility of this whole thing. This isn't we're doing it, we're not doing it. So I completely understand where the community is coming from. If anybody knows my background, I'm the one who brought hundreds of people to these meetings because I didn't understand. So I want to make sure, sitting at this table, that I understand and if I'm correct, my goal is to make sure that community is 100% in the room, it's documented. The committee that Dr. Williams-Knight is looking to put together happens, and the right people are at the table, and this resolution will make that happen. Officially, it wouldn't be just something that we do when, to be honest, the amount of phone calls that I've received up until, quite frankly, 11 o'clock last night, where my son who's in behind there suffered and didn't see me most of the night behind this resolution. So please explain to me if I'm wrong in my due diligence to not only read the amendment, which includes community input, but to make sure that moving this forward ensures that community is at the table because this resolution is on the table. If I'm wrong, I need someone to let me know that, because I think that needs to be clarified, that this resolution is not saying we're doing this and nobody's input's included and this is just happening. This is just opening up the door to have the conversation about what can possibly be done. Am I correct?
Next, Mr. Scott, if you want.
I'd like the answer to the question.
I'm sorry. Does any board member want to answer her question? Oh, who are you asking?
Anyone who can answer what the resolution, please help me with what I'm up to.
So if I can just say, I think it does, open up the opportunity to meet with staff and the board and the community, but it also does authorize me to begin negotiating a lease with Maguire.
Right, so if you're negotiating the lease with Maguire, but you're not, like, that's the whole point. Negotiating is not, I'm doing it. It's not saying it's happening, it's a negotiation.
Correct.
And for the community to be involved,
Correct.
this resolution mandates and states and ensures the community's involvement in those conversations.
Correct.
That's where that's the additional amendment that I read. That's what I'm trying to ensure. So I'm not trying to push community away. I'm trying to ensure their presence in all conversations that have to do with this commissary.
Mr. Scott, it doesn't matter. Mr. Scott, your hand was up first, then Mr. Hurd. That's how it, and then Paulette was.
Thank you, President Bellancamen. So just to kind of reiterate what Board Member Makosi was saying and what is stated in the resolution, this is authorizing a continuation of what was started in September of 2022. It's been 2 years. One of the speakers tonight spoke very clearly on the need for this to happen. We've been hearing from speakers at multiple meetings. We've received emails, which the last one on the brief, like Board Member McEachen stated, was very well written and helpful to me. It informed me. There has been lots of opportunity to provide feedback, and Board Member Makosi's amendment to the resolution allows the opportunity for continued feedback. I've heard over and over, it was reported in the news about how inadequate the current commissary is, the health issues with it, how it's not adequate to feed all of our children, not just in Buffalo Public Schools, but in our charter schools as well. 2 years, September 2022. And like Board Member Makosi stated, this is just revisiting where we began to restart those negotiations. And I assume that something will be brought back to us on the result of those negotiations. After additional community input, I'm sure it's something that's going to be public, that they can weigh in on as well and inform us on how they feel about those negotiations or what's negotiated. And then we get another vote on the result of those negotiations. Now, Dr. Williams-Knight, in regards, and maybe it's for staff as well, can you again just explain the financial issues involved here? Because it's complex. And one of those being how much money has already been spent or invested with the developer, and the access to federal funds to fund this project, and the potential of losing millions of dollars.
I'll answer the one question first regarding spending to date, about $1.5 million that Maguire has incurred and is asking us to pay. But I want to stress, if we're all about urgency, this is just a fact. The construction documents are finished. They're completed. There's no more design. There's no more construction documents. It's all been completed and submitted to the state. That would expedite any decision to start this project. But that's their cost incurred. Secondly, regarding the complexity of this, it is complex, but I think it's also been more complicated by various points where we've had to discuss misinformation or maybe bad information from external parties. And let me just respectfully, there's $38 million sitting in what's called the C fund, the food service fund. One issue with that, we're currently undergoing our audit. Every year, when our audit's completed for about the past 5 years, that $30 to $38 million, we have to file what's called an excess fund balance plan. You're only entitled or allowed to keep 3 months of operating expenditures in that fund. That's about $7 million. So we have to submit a plan on how we're going to spend that excess, $31 million in this case. The risk is, I don't know what time frame it is, but they have you fill out this form, and it's reviewed and approved by the Child and Family Services Nutrition Division. If they don't think you're serious about spending down that excess fund in only allowable expenditures, they have the option and the power to withhold your aid and make you spend that money on current operations. That would be $35, $40 million a year. They could take the whole balance. Second thing, because the money resides in the C fund, there's an extra layer of regulations on how the money can be spent. Food service dollars in no way, shape, or form can be used to buy or build construct a new building. It's not allowed. Lease payments are allowable. We currently pay lease for the current facility. It's an allowable expenditure. Part of the plan that we submitted for the excess fund balance included the lease of a new facility. The second thing that's been complicated, no districts in New York State can own property. Let me expand upon what own means. It means holding title. So, say the city holds title, or the county. We could purchase the building, but we'll never hold title. What holding title allows is whenever a lease or the occupant of that building, in this case us, stops, it reverts back to the title holder. Only they can capitalize then upon a sale of the building. We are prohibited from doing that. We were advised to look at Syracuse because they somehow bypassed the rules. That is not true. Syracuse does not own either does not hold title to either their STEM building. Their commissary it's not a commissary, it's a warehouse that was expanded on a current building. So they do not hold title to any building. The last one that came up today from a phone call is that somehow this project could be aidable. My research, my experience, and my contacts at SED, food services, remember, are a federal grant, a grant. The surplus is a result of not spending those grants. You cannot apply for building aid from New York State. It's called double dipping. You've already received a grant. You can't now not use those funds and apply for building aid. It is complicated, but I think it has been made more complex by various things thrown at us. So right now, from a financial analysis perspective, and hearing the needs of the community for quick action, Elise is, all I'm gonna say is, Elise is perfectly 100% acceptable for the use of food service funds. And I'll let David touch on how shovel-ready the project is, if that's not too strong a word.
So this project has been in works since 2015. The board approval for engaging the developer in response to the RFP was in September of 2022. In the year following that, there were, by the developer, we bet weekly or bi-weekly, depending, but at least there was never a time where we didn't at least meet bi-weekly with an entire team of about 20 people to work on this commissary, to make sure it was developed to meet the food service needs. Food service does have a committee of stakeholders that have been pulled together, and that committee of stakeholders had input into the planning process from 2022 going on. There were community meetings by the developer and that many board members attended, that community members attended. Now I will say, the fact that that amendment had to be put in this resolution is clear. I have not done enough to engage the community, particularly in this intermediate time when we had to make some adjustments. So we can do parallel things. We can move this forward, begin negotiating the lease, take what's had, and engage stakeholders at the same time. So that's what we're committed to. But a lot of that, and we will make sure that it's documented too, the community engagement that went in that period of from September of 2022 until the finalization of the construction documents.
I'm sorry, and Mrs. Woods, I heard you loud and clear. You often have great insights. I will follow up on everything you said today and get a
I'm
writing.
sure. With Paulette, I'm sure. She's gonna make sure you.
We have mutual respect.
And I will get
We have mutual respect, but what I cannot support, if we do not have a plan that has considered the additional information brought to our attention, that there is the possibility, strong possibility, that this is aidable, that it is $30 million on the line, and I respect that you and the superintendent can resolve that before you ask me to sign anything that's not complete. That's just not how we've worked.
Sure.
So I'm not saying I don't support this project. I'm not saying that we don't need it. What I am saying is that we committed to be transparent to our community, to respond to our community, to keep them abreast. We have not been able to do that. We do not have a plan. All I'm saying, what is 2 weeks to get it right and have unanimous support and respect for the community, and don't have me sitting up here as a financial manager saying, oh, you told me 30 million was available, I'm in a budget crisis, you told me I could fund staff, you told me I can fix these rundowns of dining rooms in my schools that they're yelling at me at. I have the possibility, if I just take the time, if our staff takes the time, and we resolve this and get it clear cut, then I don't have to worry about, I threw away $30 million that I desperately need for these schools. Will you give me that courtesy? That is all I'm asking. Table this, give us 2 weeks, give us a solid plan, be fiscally responsible, respect my community. That is my ask, that is where I stand, that's why you hear a very clear. If we had 2 years on it, 2 weeks is nothing. So I don't play with money. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just very clear. I need that to be looked at. Thank you.
Mrs. Woods, I came up to the microphone and say I will absolutely follow up. But just for the record, 2 years ago it was denied building aid by the SED. Maybe 6 months ago, on top of that denial, I had a video conference call with Building Aid Director Sarah Madsen. She said, no, you can't get either lease aid or building aid because it's federal funds, C funds. I've had numerous conversations with the head auditor of the excess fund balance process. And it's not aidable. We've done research, but I will follow up. If someone else, New York State's a big place, if someone else is saying something different, just give me the name and I'll follow up. But just so you know, I will also follow up with the heads of Child and Family Nutrition Services finances and get everything what they confirmed to me previously in writing. So I hear you. I hear you.
Okay, Mr. Hurd, you're next, right? And Terry,
Yes.
then you're following that, and then Board Member Revere, okay?
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions for clarity. Has contract talk, I mean, we got a contract with Maguire that was already signed and agreed to. What stopped?
What?
That this resolution is brought to the table today. What has stopped? Has talk stopped with the city of Buffalo about the land contracts? Or is our problem with Maguire?
Okay. No, we are causing a problem for Maguire because we don't have the authority to pursue lease negotiations. Regarding the city, I'll turn it over to Mary.
Okay.
With respect to what was previously signed with the Maguire Group, and obviously the COO Hills can certainly correct me on that, it was a DDA that would have led to, at different points in time, either a lease or a purchase. So that's kind of where we're at, is you need to go to the next step in the process.
So the DDA and all of the arrangements had last March as breaking ground, regardless of whether we leased or purchased. But then when our ability to come to a level of agreement with the city to get this before the Common Council, where we were unable to do that, the only option left, and we still would engage the city at any time, we have had recent talks, but when that ability ended and we were not able to get in front of the Common Council, we went past the end of the developer agreement, the designated development agreement. We went past the point when we were supposed to break ground, and now we have to re-engage. We have still the ability to re-engage. We don't know what prices have changed because all of the subcontractor agreements for pricing, those have expired. They expired at the end of June. So we will, once we sit at the table, we'll have to see where we're at while we're still making sure that we have open stakeholder meetings so that input can be brought to the negotiating table also.
Okay. To be clear, when we went to the Common Council, when was that? And they did not approve this plan to lease us the property?
We were
or
never
build on?
able to get to the point where we could get it to the common
Did
council.
they not approve
We
for us
were
to be able
never
to
able
build?
to, because someone inside the city has to present it to the common council.
That'll be the planning board.
So we were not able to get past the planning board. It has gone to the planning board for construction documents and for all those purposes, but as far as the city of Buffalo acquiring the property and taking title, we were not even able to get past the appraisal board or any of the initial steps in order to get to the common council.
So initially, we did do justice by going to the common council, to the city of Buffalo, about presenting the paperwork and also asking them for the land, and they gave us a purchase price for the land. Did they give us a purchase price for the land at that time?
So we are not buying the land from the city.
We're not purchasing it, but did they give us a price for the land?
There is an
for
appraisal.
Maguire to
There's an
develop?
appraisal for the land, which is actually an appraisal for the built facility. So the built facility as delivered would be what is purchased. And that we weren't able to get to a point where we could get that built facility purchase to the common council.
Okay, so right now we stand $1.5 million is owed to the Maguire Group. How can we, because I don't want to get sued because of a debt bill for a commissary that we asked them to do the schematics on and development and working with the city. Now, if the city is the one that fought for holdings, then how can, we don't want to sue this bill or be sued for monies.
Sorry, I apologize. The city was not a part of the discussions back then. The city was not a part of the DDA. The city was not a part of the initial discussions when the resolutions became before the board. The city was brought in when there was the pivot made to potentially purchase it, since title would have to be held by the city. They were not included in the earlier conversations. That is when the city apprised the district of issues that arose that would prevent the purchase at this time with the procurement process, which is why the lease option is available, as that was what was contemplated by the district, and the city is not involved in the lease process at all. So they would not have to be engaged at this point in
The
time.
proposal to McGuire was not a lease but the purchase, but they ultimately said that they will purchase the property themselves and we had to pay them back through a lease?
The original
That's it.
RFP was for a lease with a purchase option. And that is not acceptable under New York State regulation, which is one of the issues that really hung us up because that language was in the RFP.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And last thing, at 1055 East Delavan. So we were renewing that lease again for how long?
So there is a clause in it that allows us to ask for a 5-year extension. So we're going to begin discussions with the current landlord to see, once we know what kind of timeline we're on, we have to do that 6 months ahead of time. So we're going to engage the current landlord in discussions. If we think we only need 2 years, we'll engage for 2 years, we'll engage for a year. But we can, between now and January, we can execute that ability to have a 5-year option unilaterally. But do we necessarily want to do that?
Hopefully within 5 years we can have development plan shoveling the ground. So what's the basis of this resolution that's presented before us? Does this serve any purpose? Is this including the community into agreement about this commissary? And maybe the community can help us get this pushed through?
It does not commit the board to any action. It simply allows the superintendent and her staff to pursue this avenue. So you're going to save time no matter what, and it doesn't commit the board to anything. With Jen's amendment, it assures the additional community involvement, but it does not commit the board to anything, but it does start positive action on probably the most feasible way that this is going to get done, which is a lease. I'll research your issues, Mrs. Woods, in the meantime.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'm sorry, Terry Shuta is next, board member.
The phone calls and the conversations I've had have been with parent leaders, and I guess they feel like they were left out of the loop, and I think that we alluded to that there wasn't the conversation. And do I believe we need this to get going? Absolutely. But I kind of go on a different view than Paulette. You're saying, give me 2 weeks so we can get something solid. I'm saying, give the parents an opportunity to have their voices heard. Let's start this on the right foot and let's move forward. But I think we owe it to the parent groups that want to have a conversation beforehand. It might not be something that we think is necessary because of the new language at the end of the resolution. But my standpoint is we ask for parent involvement, we say that we're doing it, and they're just asking for that opportunity. And that's what I've been hearing. And this is just a tough decision.
Dr. Revere?
Thank you. I have a couple questions. And some of them are going to go over ground, but I really would like to just have a lot of clarity on this because as you pointed out, there's been some misinformation, there's been some miscommunication, there's been some missed opportunities here. And we want to make that right for ourselves, for our district, and for our community. So the first question is, since not moving forward, working with starting to negotiate, doing anything other than moving forward on what we've already started with the preferred developers, since opening up the whole process all over again. My understanding is that's likely to cost us an additional $2 to $3 million in addition with actual plans, right? Is that correct? That's correct, okay. What assurances do we have, if any, if we open up this process and we start from the beginning again, that we'll actually be presented with some alternate viable plan other than what we already have on the table as expressed by this resolution? So what I'm asking is anything else viable other than what we've got here already? And if it doesn't make sense, I'll clarify.
So if we reissued an RFP, engaged a new developer, looking for a lease, that would be one thing. And we would be basically reinventing the wheel and likely to have the same outcome. If we attempted to go to the city, which we have said, okay, what could we do from day one that would make this an appropriate, make this something, the response we have is that they don't have the capacity to give us that advisement because it is still a huge project. So that we would probably need outside corporation counsel. We would need to have a process of saying, okay, how can we design this? And we would still be years from getting shovel ready. And we might not be able to untie this knot. I don't want to say we might be able to also, because creativity and will can defeat a lot of obstacles. But we've also tried a lot of creativity and will to this point, and here we are.
So that's my second question. So if we don't start negotiations now, in other words, so if we don't authorize this now, at the beginning of the school year, before, well in advance before the next lease expires and moving forward, how many years out could we be seeing a functional commissary? So if we wait, and we wait to start, and we wait to authorize this, what kind of timeline would we be looking at?
An RFP process would take 6 months to a year without the complexities with the scale of a project. 18 months from shovels in the ground till construction schedule. So we would be looking optimistically at a year to a year and a half from starting construction, and then another 18 months.
Okay. And then if we approve this, I really want to be clear on this, if we approve this, will it preclude parent and student voice to meaningfully plan? And would it preclude us investigating alternate funding? So if there's other funding out there, for example, like Member Woods was talking about, would it preclude any of those things?
So no, it would not. In fact, we are now, with this authorization, able to speak publicly, able to engage the public in a way that we haven't been until before having clarity. So it would not preclude us from that, and we will engage the public in this process.
Okay, so previously, because we didn't give any authorization, you were not able to engage folks.
I'm not going to say we were chained, but we didn't.
But you didn't. Okay, so this is giving.
We have had, the superintendent has had an open door policy. She has engaged stakeholders, but I could have done better.
Okay, so what we're doing is we're rectifying something here. That's fair. Finally, nope, I think, do we have plans in place to work with parents now on this work, and what would that look like? Or are they just being designed right now?
So yes, there are. In fact, I believe just about a couple of weeks ago, I had asked Dr. Reynolds to set up a meeting. And, you know, as I shared tonight, I did get 2 requests from parent leads in writing to meet. And for both of those, I shared affirmatively, absolutely, I'm willing to meet. For whatever the reason, I think that they wanted some other officials from the city to be a part of the meeting. And so the parents decided that they weren't ready to meet at that time. But in writing, they have from me that absolutely I am ready to meet. So we do have a meeting on September 10th, just to kickstart, you know, the conversations. And if I can just say too, I believe that one important stakeholder, we're talking about parents, but the folks who live in that community that will also benefit, I believe there was some work, some focus groups where there were people that live within the community that they're talking about building that were able to weigh in and hear what the plans were. So there has been some communication. It needs to be more consistent and more robust and more, you know, just ongoing. And I think that this resolution with the friendly amendment that was added would be able to address that.
Yes.
Thank you. So just to make sure that I absolutely understand, one of the concerns was possibly not having city officials at the table, but we're aware from the city that there may not be capacity for this, and so there's not a lot of opening for that. Is that correct?
Officially, although I do believe that we will still have,
of course,
common council representatives. There is a lot of interest in this project.
And we would.
It's just a pretty hefty project, and they couldn't figure out how to get us to the finish line.
For the previous model.
Yes.
But for this model, we will be engaging.
We will engage all the stakeholders, including City of Buffalo.
Thank you. And
I'm
sorry, I just have one more and then I am done, which is that. So we have a potential meeting on the books. Is there any obstacle to a communication plan with stakeholders? Any obstacle at all? Or are we ready to start putting one together? We're ready to start putting one together. Thank you.
Mr. Hurd, and then because of Paulette, I want you to go after Mr. Hurd, okay? Thank you.
I just want to state quickly for the record that this district has engaged with the community many a times. We had a couple of community meetings over at 1055 Delvin Avenue and the Moselle Center. We met with Norfolk, Olympic Street. It was Northumberland, Cornwall, Cambridge, Wyoming, Kermit. So residents from the whole entire area came to meet with us and talked about this commissary and gave great approvals, and they gave their input in for it. The problem that we didn't have that many people from our district council members didn't attend these meetings, and I don't know if we gave notice to them or not, but there was a slew of residents that did come. This district did reach out to this community and the community over on East Delavan for the meetings, and we also we gave food, we gave some hors d'oeuvres and all kind of items for the community during these meetings. So I just want to put that on the record.
Board Member Woods.
Mr. Hill, kindly. You gave two options that have been investigated on the funding of this project. Are you aware, have you been informed that there is a third option that has been brought as things do change, information updates, laws change, funding changes? We must respond to changes. Are you aware that there is a third option?
Which the third option would be?
The third option, it will not change your plans, will not slow down the commissary, but has the potential to provide aid for this project. So that instead of taking and depleting $41 million, which is how we were planning currently to fund this project, the third option, which deserves to be at least looked at, does not take a lot of time, will provide the Board of Education with $31 million of state aid, which has been the normal practice for funding capital projects. The state is interested in guiding us through it, talking with us. Are you not amenable to even consider, take time to develop and investigate a third option that will add $31 million to our budget and allow us to use that $41 million for a lot of significant things? Are you unwilling for 1 week? For 1 week. Will that be, can you please explain to me what kind of delay, change, will the earth end in 1 week?
So
that's my first.
Oh. So the potential of building aid, back at the beginning of this project, we engaged New York State Facilities Department on the potential of building aid. And we have an email from Sarah Madison that clearly says, unless you have K-12 students, you cannot get building aid. When it was brought up about 6 months ago that there's a potential for central kitchen aid, either lease aid or building aid, we set up a video conference with Jim, Mel Alston, myself, and Sarah Madison, and I believe John Hart. John Hart was also on the video conference to say, we have been told that this is the case. We were told again, after investigation, that there is not an option. Now, if we can get building aid, we will get building aid for this. We will not, and this resolution doesn't stop us from pursuing building aid. This resolution doesn't say we're going to drain the fund balance. That is what the resolution allows us. Right now, the documentation we have is what we would submit, the construction documents, the attestations. We have the package ready for state approval. Permitting from the state, particularly they have to approve the lease. To make it an aid request would not be a very difficult, it's one more form to put in with the submission. So that, I am not opposed to it all. And if you give me the names, Jim and I will engage whoever at the state says they can walk us through this process. Because I was very excited when I thought
I'm extremely excited.
Yeah.
I'm extremely pleased with willingness to pursue this. What I am not pleased with is putting the cart before the horse, pressuring a last-minute 24-hour resolution on this board when everything we've been taught from the Congress of Greater City Schools says this is not an acceptable manner of moving any item. It is not acceptable to pressure the board, and that it is just totally unprofessional and unnecessary to make this even an issue to take up 5 days of our board meeting. It is not going to change that we will get a commissary. It is not going to change your designs that are already ready. It is not going to put a significant world-ending anything to take the time, since we got a governor who's giving us all kind of extra grants. They're bending over backwards to work with us. It is, can you please explain to me why we should slap the hand that is feeding us? Why you can't give this, have a special meeting next week?
So I will surrender to the wisdom of the board on that
Thank you.
issue of timing and that issue of protocol. What I will say is we've been told no by the state twice.
Okay.
So we will go to the state again and see if we can get.
Well, we want to make sure that you have help when you go this time. Jennifer, can you, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, and this resolution does not talk in any way, shape, or form about the funding at all.
That's
It
fine,
doesn't
that's
prohibit-
fine. We understand that. I want to wrap this up. Jennifer, Board Member Makusi.
So knowing, and this is, I want it on the record, that this is a clear-cut example of communication on this board. Because if some of us, I'm talking about me, was aware of, there might have been aidable funding, there might be, if I was aware of this particular third option, I wouldn't be at this table with all this in front of me. We have to do whatever Council of Great City Schools is, or just in general, as a Board of Education, talk to each other, because this right here is clear-cut miscommunication. Some people knew this existed. I'm sitting here fuming, shaking back and forth, like this is something that if I would have had knowledge of, I would have brought to the conversations I had for the past 2 days. I would have brought to community. I would have considered with all of this, and we need to start communicating.
This just came up today, just so you know.
But
Probably about 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Before this board meeting, it would have been really important, executive session or whatever, to at least throw those numbers out there. I'm just
It's
putting
not
that out.
executive, it's not executive session.
Jen, hold on, I'm not finished.
I understand.
I'm not finished,
Let her finish, please.
Thank you. So all I'm saying is, moving forward, let's communicate this, because this was something that I was unaware of. I know I'm only one member, but 9 of us do this. So I just would like to know, because that's a huge
See how you
piece.
handle stuff?
It's a
Can't even let me
huge
know you're doing
piece
it.
that I would have known about. And to be dismissed like I'm being dismissed right now is really upsetting. Well, let's just get over that. Moving forward, I would like to know, so I am informed of what could possibly change how we direct things in this board.
Okay, no problem. You have something, you standing there for, or you just wait? Okay. Cindy?
I just wanted to provide clarity on the third option, Jen. It's not a third option per se. The language is not right, right? So what we're getting at and what has been, and please correct me if I am wrong, but right now, like we are not, if we voted on this tonight and chose to move forward, that doesn't change the conversations that can continue to happen about alternative funding. Okay, so it's not necessarily a third option.
I
Agree.
agree, Jen.
Yes,
Jen,
I just
I
wanted to
agree.
clarify
I
that.
agree.
It's not a separate
So,
thing.
let's wrap this up. So this is clear. I started working on this 2 weeks ago. People at the state were on vacation, couldn't get some answers because the question had been posed to us as a district, that there was an opportunity. The state was wondering why we are not, why we are not coming to them to get building aid. Now, I'm not asking you to, this is what, so in finding out today, probably about 3 o'clock, or maybe maybe this afternoon sometime, that, and the Sarah person was on the phone.
Yeah.
Okay, that Buffalo has the opportunity to utilize the building aid, and then the money from the CNF, we could do other things with. But the state was asking, they said months ago, why Buffalo was not requesting. So you're saying you put an application in, and obviously there was something on the app that the state did not like, and so they rejected it. But the people you're talking about were on the call today. So let me explain something here, because we're through talking about this, I think, at this point. Either we have the votes or we don't. Okay, and if the request is that we're going to ask you to get additional information and present it to the board, then that's the request. For whatever reason, this has to be done like this. The Council of Great City Schools in this process has told us that the board should not, the paperwork sent to the board should be sent in a timely manner, and I agree with that. In this particular case, had someone reached out to me, I could have said, we're on a conversation, we have somebody from the state who is interested and who's talking to us about possibly coming up with some funding. I don't see where 2 weeks, if you want to have a special meeting, we can have one. But it's just, when I talk to the parents, they said every time this district comes to them, they have this stuff already written out and already planned. And they want us to we want them to rubber stamp it. I can tell you one thing, if this doesn't get passed today, I bet that the parents and the community will get some leverage here, okay? Because we have a pattern of how we're doing it, okay? I've been at those meetings, okay? So we want to talk about this has taken 2 years. Let's talk about All High. How long has it taken? Okay, let's talk about a lot of things, the Bennett steps. So we have a history of taking a long time for certain projects. Some gets done immediately. For example, research lab. I mean, that principal was in that building for years and didn't get anything, but once we put research lab in there, it got done. So we have a history of taking a little while to get things done so that we can get it right. And that's what the parents said to me. We don't mind if it takes a little longer as long as we get it done right and we have a say in it. And that's what I think we should do as a board. Make sure that we get it right. This should never come before the board without options already presented. The board should not even have to ask a question that doesn't have an answer from my opinion about this. And so the fact that we have an opportunity to look at another funding source, and you're saying that there was a problem with getting it, I believe that because that's how the state works. But maybe today, it's a different day at the state. And so now we can have another conversation. So in moving forward, we need to take the vote and we need to move forward. And we need to end the conversation because everybody has voiced their opinion. We can agree to disagree. If the board, everybody at this table, I believe, is for this commissary. We're in agreement with that. What's not in agreement is that we're not comfortable. There are certain board members that are not comfortable at this point. And we need to be comfortable in order to move this forward, okay? And that's what has happened here, okay? Now, we agree to end the discussion?
No, I have a question.
You have something else you want to say?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So this information you said became available today at 3 o'clock?
Sometime this afternoon. I can't remember.
Has it been shared with the superintendent and staff to
It was shared with the superintendent first.
Okay. And
First, it was shared with the superintendent.
Okay. And
Okay.
what's the next step then on this discovery?
So I had a conversation this afternoon with our Big Five representative, and she shared that from her understanding, there is possibly this option. And what I committed to her and what I've spoken to staff about is that we will all get in a room and have a conversation with the state ed representatives that it sounds like we've heard one thing and someone else has heard something else, and I want all of us to sit down in a room and hear at the same time what it is. We have actually a good problem here. You know, either way, we've got money, whether we get it reimbursed or whether we get it from the fund, the C fund. We've got the money for the commissary, and the resolution, as I'm reading it again and again, I'm looking for if there's a space in here that talks about funding, but I don't see that in here. So, you know, either way, whether we wait or we don't, it doesn't preclude us from beginning to move forward with conversations and negotiations if it's approved.
So in the conversations today, nothing was indicated that moving on this resolution would prevent the possibility of this aid.
No.
I think it's just the nature of the resolution at this point, that you're bringing it before the board, that this has been out for over 2 and something plus years, and now that we're finding out that there's another stream of revenue, and it hasn't been exhausted.
But the revenue has nothing to do with the...
Well, and moving forward has nothing to do with your resolution. It's the same thing.
And any application for funding would.
Yes, board member.
So I'm going to revert back to my original question. Does this resolution, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, because no one has as of yet, does this resolution say that nothing, that this is the end-all, be-all, or does it open the door to make sure that we move on it, we move on the community meetings, we move on the discussions, we move on all this? Are we authorizing with this resolution to get the ball rolling, but we're not preventing anything? The amendment is ensuring, because the real deal is that the community just doesn't trust that we're going to meet with them. That's straight up. I heard that about 13 times.
Okay.
So if we're putting this in place, that the board is ensuring community engagement with the superintendent, if you are stating that the funding does not prevent this from moving forward, and you're going to have the conversations anyway, what I'm asking is, the 2 weeks or the month, the money is going to be investigated. All that's going to be investigated. We're actually allowing for all of that to happen with this resolution. Am I correct?
Yeah, but the superintendent said she was going to do it. She
Yeah, but
already
so
said she
then
was going to do it.
so what is the
why, wait a minute, so we're
resolution
talking about governance.
No,
why is the
my
board?
question-
Let me be very clear. Let me be very
Answer-
clear.
Hold on, my
I'll give
question
you your
has
answer.
not been
Please.
answered with whether or not this particular resolution halts anything. Does it begin the process officially?
Let's vote it
That's
up or
the-
vote it down, please.
the-
Enough
Does the
conversation.
resolution
The
begin?
answer
up or
to that
down?
question is very simple. You were saying put the cart before the horse.
No, I was
Go and
not.
put-
No, I
put-
was
put-
not.
Excuse
I'm
me,
looking
I
for
listened
an
to
Lower
you.
your voices, please.
I was looking for
Point of
an
order, lower your
answer
voices,
to my
This
please.
resolution is premature because
Did I not have
in
the
the
floor?
package that is
Did I not
right
have the
now
floor?
submitted, it commits $41 million from a different source. It does not include even the option of the reimbursement. It is not a plan. It is not a complete plan. It has not been thoroughly researched. The community has not been included. There is a lot of knots. So moving forward unprepared, when the superintendent is willing to take the time to make us look good and bring us together in unity, I think we want unity.
So again, my question is, does this resolution prevent moving together
Yes,
in
it does.
unity? And I'm asking,
Okay.
I'm asking without being dismissed, because you know I'm not going to deal with that.
I'm not
The
trying to
question
dismiss
on
you,
the
but I think that
table-
question was answered
No,
earlier.
it was not.
Yes, it
not.
was.
It was.
They answered it again, but
Okay,
it's
so
not going to
what
change
is
anything.
what is the uncomfortableness about moving forward with doing everything we are saying and ensuring by doing the
Ooh, Lord, help.
resolution we're going to do?
Maybe your
May I
aggressiveness.
may I make a comment?
Yes, please.
It certainly sounds like the resolution will not preclude the superintendent from moving forward with the plan.
But the plan is going to be discussed after the resolution to open up the discussion.
Why a discussion has to be,
There is no plan.
but why is a resolution the all be all, to have her continue to do her job as a superintendent? They've been negotiating, and the resolution, frankly, after I listened to everybody, the resolution should have came from the superintendent. How about that?
Jim, can you speak on just that?
Certainly, it should have come from the superintendent if it was an emergency resolution, because she has the ability to put a resolution in. But on Monday, she was clear, when we were told that we don't need to own real property, that the superintendent was clear that she was going to move forward. And I don't know where between Monday and Tuesday that the board felt that they had to step in and do what the two superintendents had already said she was gonna do.
So I do want to speak up, and I was hesitant to say anything in this space. So first, I want to apologize to everybody sitting in this room. It is vitally important that we create a psychologically safe space for us all. I can only speak for myself in saying that I have chosen not to do that and to sit quietly when exchanges occur that may not create a psychologically safe space for those sitting in this room. And I am going to say that because we are going through, and it has been referenced, and y'all have heard me talk about it a lot, this governance model. And it says that student outcomes don't change until adult behaviors change. That begins with us, each of us. All of us sitting here. And we can speak to the 48-hour rule, we can speak to what is not happening or has happened, or we can speak on all sorts of things, and we have tonight. But the fact of the matter is, right now, a resolution is in front of us. It is similar to something that we approved back in 2022, and right now, we have held the district hostage from moving forward because we haven't talked about it. And we don't talk about it because it's not safe to talk about. Because you can't have the conversation. And it needs to happen. I've had questions. We all have heard that we've had questions. And at some point, we need to just ask the questions and move conversation forward. And if this passes tonight, that will be wonderful. And if it doesn't, it is my hope that we have opened the door for the conversation and that it will move forward, because this is for the kids. We are all here for that reason. And I don't question anybody's motives in being here for the kids. But we cannot continue to do this.
Okay, anybody else?
One last question. I'd just like to say that this board is very passionate, and the community is very passionate about this commissary and getting this project done. And it's been on the table since 2015. And you can see by the emotions by everybody at the table and the audience that, that a lot of work has been done on it, but we're still spinning wheels trying to get the job done. I would just like to refer to the superintendent to see what does she feel might be the best way to move forward.
I don't think you should put the superintendent in the middle of a fight that the board is having. I don't think that's fair to her.
I'll have to,
it's not fair to her.
I have the floor.
It's not fair to put the superintendent in the middle of a fight. It's just not fair.
This is not a fight. Everybody's
certainly
passionate. Everybody's passionate about getting the commissary done.
Stop using her like that.
The way that it gets done.
Stop using her like that.
I have the floor. Excuse me. If the superintendent
to go to the board, she has to work with 9 board members. And if she has 4 that agree and 4 that don't, she should not be put in the middle of that.
What I'm asking right now is that we heard from the administrative staff members about what their projection is and what they're trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish as far as this commissary and what needs to be done. Everybody heard their testimony of what they can do to move forward. And we heard what this resolution is. Really don't have any base or bias about how we're going to move forward and how this have any interaction about negotiations. But as Cindy stated, this resolution puts us forward to move forward as a district on the commissary and gets us back in talks with the city of Buffalo, Maguire Group, and any talks that we have with New York State, whether we got a third option or not. I'm not going to ask the superintendent to speak on it, but if we can, as a board, just to vote on this and just know that community input is very important with this, and that I think this resolution is really doing is just allowing for a community just to have some kind of say-so in this transaction, or just to see that this can actually exist, because Why wouldn't the community step up and say, I want to be involved with this if they know that it's been going on since 2015 and nothing's been done? I'm not saying by this district, but nothing has been moved forward on this. So we can go ahead and take the vote on this and just see where we're going with this.
Thank you. And we're not going to talk about the misinformation that was given to the board since 2015. Okay, now, in moving forward, okay.
It's not
When it was first
misinformation.
presented to the board, it was presented as a lease to own.
You were on the board
It
when
was
it first
not an
presented.
option.
We heard this in 2019.
It was first presented as a lease to own. Call the question. Let's call the vote. Discussion is over. Discussion is over. Do we agree to that? Can we agree to end the discussion? Yeah? Okay. Do I need to take a vote? I need a motion to end the discussion. Can I get a motion? Can I get a motion to end the discussion? Motion to end the discussion. Okay.
I believe, point of order, it would be a motion to approve the resolution as amended.
Okay. Motion to approve the resolution as amended. It fails if nobody gives a motion to. Okay.
No.
No.
No, you didn't. You opened it up.
If we did that, we'd be done. So,
Let's just check for understanding first, right? Are we clear on what we're doing? We're moving this so that we can take a vote on it. As amended, with the piece of community voice in it. Are we all clear on that? Okay, I got a yes. I got a stare. Are we clear? Yeah. Just,
make the motion again.
Are we clear? Sure. All right. I move to approve, correct? Approve the motion as amended.
And just for a point of clarification for the board, since this was less than 48 hours, it would require a supermajority, so it would require 2/3 vote of the full board. Just so that's.
So if we vote
No.
no, it means we don't want this resolution approved at this time.
Okay.
Correct.
So what you're voting for at this point is to allow the resolution to have a friendly amendment attached to it so that it can come before the board for a final vote.
No, you already approved the
Voting
amendment.
yes or no, do you want to pass this tonight, or do you want to wait?
Yes, there was a motion to amend the resolution earlier that passed.
Okay, that
Now
did
it would be
pass.
the motion
Okay.
to
I'm
approve the
sorry.
resolution as amended.
My bad. Okay.
So taking the roll call. Vice President Evans Brown.
No, not at this time.
Board Member Hurd. Yes. Board Member McEachen. Yes. Board Member McCosey. Yes. Board Member Rivera.
Yes.
Board Member Shuta.
I'm going to say no at this time.
Vice President Scott.
yes.
Board Member Woods.
No, not at this time.
And President Belton-Cotman.
No, not at this time.
And the motion fails.
Thank you.
I
Fail.
just said motion fails.
Thank you. So we've had a lively discussion about this. Moving forward, I feel at this point, if the board has no problem, we will waive the comments from the committee reports, and we will go into our bereavement, and we will let our staff be able to go home. Okay? Thank you. Vice President Kathy Evans Brown, could you please, could we all rise,
Can we
please?
rise, please? These are bereavement. August 21st, 2024. July 13th, Joan Murrah, grandmother of Dr. Kelly Badeau, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum, Assessment and Instruction. July 17th, Johnny B. Fenderson, an Army veteran, partner and best friend of West District Board Member Jim McCoskey,
stepfather to ninth grader Alex Rivera of Middle Early College. July 21st, Martha Criswell, grandmother of Donald White and assistant principal at school number 74. July 18th, Joyce Pembleton, mother of Sandra Davies, a retired cultural resource specialist. July 24th, Peggy Bratton, a teacher aide at school number 32, cousin of Perrette Walker, specialty programs officer, Bradley Walker, a BPS security officer, and Jody Covington, principal of BAVPA. July 29th, William Bancott, husband of Rachel Lyons, a teacher at school number 192. And lastly, July 30th, Minnie Harris, mother of Tony Harris, a teacher at school number 92. May we bow in silence, please, for these souls. Thank you.
We have a motion to conclude this meeting. Paulette Woods, Jennifer, all in favor?